All right, we're going to get this going. If you can hit your seats. All right, we'll call this general committee meeting to order. Welcome everyone, and very sorry for starting late. We started our meeting land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. We'll now take 30 seconds to reflect. Please stand for the singing of the national anthem.
Sorry, not working.
Thank you, everyone. That was good. The Council for the City of Peterborough recognizes the principles contained in our Constitution and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Adoption of minutes from October 20th. Moved by Councillor Duguay. Any comments or questions, errors, or omissions? We'll take a vote. And please make sure you're in the general committee meeting, not the council meeting that we just came from. Okay, Councillor Hickey, you may be in the wrong one, but we'll put you as a yay for the minutes. And that is carried. Madam Clerk, any disclosure of pecuniary interest this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I believe Councillor Hickey has a conflict.
Councillor Hickey?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, I declaring on item 12C, draft plan of subdivision, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for 689 Tower Hill Road, report IPG PL 25-056, as our company was involved in the land purchase we're discussing.
All right, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
have four reports coming out of closed session this evening. First one, property lease. Sorry, Councillor Duguay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noted under the disclosure of pecuniary interest, it's referencing that my interest would be the third item, the draft plan of subdivision. The record would need to be corrected, and to Madam Clerk, I may have misinformed your office. So my disclosure, pecuniary interest, pertains to item 12B, that being a zoning bylaw amendment for 736 Maryland Avenue, IPG PL 25-058. In this instance, my daughter is co-owner of the planning company providing planning services to this development application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor DeGay. So we have you on 12B. All right, 4 reports coming out of closed session. First one, property lease, that council approved the recommendation outlined in report LSRS 25-022 dated December 1st, 2025 of the Commissioner of Legislative Services as follows, that staff be authorized to proceed as outlined in closed session report LSRS 25-022 dated December 1st, 2025 of the Commissioner of Legislative Services respecting a lease to the city. Moved by Councillor Purnell. Any comments or questions? We'll take a vote. And that is carried. Second item, lease, that council approved the recommendation outlined in report LSOCS 25-019 dated December 1st, 2025 of the city solicitor as follows, that staff be directed as to proceed as outlined in closed session report LSOCS 25-019 dated December 1st, 2025 of the city solicitor respecting termination of a lease. Moved by Councillor DeGay. Any comments or questions? Take a vote. Councillor Vassiliadis. That is carried. Third item, agreement that council approve the recommendation outlined in report LSRS 25-020 dated December 1st, 2025 of the Commissioner of Legislative Services as follows, that respecting the property known municipally as 360 Reed Street, staff be authorized to proceed as outlined in closed session report LSRS 25-202 dated December 1st, 2025 of the Commissioner of Legislative Services. Moved by Councillor Burke. Any comments or questions? We'll take a vote. That is carried. Last item, land acquisition, that council approved the recommendation outlined in report LSRS 25-021 dated December 1st, 2025 of the Commissioner of Legislative Services as follows, that respecting a proposed land acquisition, staff be directed to proceed as outlined in closed session report LSRS 25-021 dated December 1st, 2025 of the Commissioner Legislative Service. Moved by Councillor Purnell. Any comments or questions? We'll take a vote. That is carried. Just 2 quick comments to move until we move to our consent. First off, apologies to the delegates. This meeting was supposed to start at 6 o'clock, so very, very sorry. The last meeting went over, so apologies. We know you're all busy and have other commitments, so very sorry. Colleagues, we are starting late. I think we'll have to finish this meeting this evening. We don't have another Monday. The week after next week, most staff are on holidays, and every other week this evening is booked by most. So we're really going to have to just get through tonight. I'd encourage everyone to keep their comments as efficient and effective as possible. Please keep your comments to delegates as a clarification. And as a former councillor used to say, don't use 5 words when 3 words will do. We do have to get through tonight's agenda this evening. Moving to the consent item. Let me know, colleagues, if you'd like to speak to any of the following. 13A, correspondence from Peterborough Police Board. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Burke. 13B, tax adjustments under section 356 and tax appeals. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 13C, September 30th financial report. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Burke. 13D, designation of 390, 392 George Street North. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 13E
No. Councillor Hakey.
Councillor Hakey to 13D. Okay. 13E, designation of 394 George Street. Anyone wishing to speak to that?
Councillor Hakey.
Councillor Hakey. Okay. 13F, designation of 368 George Street North. Anyone wishing to speak to that?
Councillor Hakey.
Okay. Councillor Hakey, the next one too?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. 13H, OPHI 2025-26 allocation, Abbeyfield. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Burke. 13I, Green Bin Organic Program. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 13J, MRF Lease Agreement Amendment. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 13K, Drinking Water System Mandated Reporting Requirement. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 13L, 2026 Water System Financial Plan. Seeing none. Okay, so up for consent 13B, 13I, 13J, 13K, 13L. Moved by Councillor Vassiliadis. We'll take a vote. And second by Councillor Purnell. Councillor Vassiliadis moved it. Oh, here we are. Or Councillor Baldwin's fine too. Councillor Baldwin. Deputy's fine. And that is carried. So, all right. So we have 3 meetings under the Planning Act. I'll pass it to the Chair of Planning, Councillor Purnell. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your opening comments, Chair Beamer. And we do have 3 items on our planning agenda this evening with quite a few delegates for each one. You will have, as a delegate, 5 minutes to speak. I would request that you do please keep your comments succinct. If the point's already been made, we don't need to hear it again. We are very much listening to what you have to say. The first item on the agenda is the draft plan of condominium for 700 Park Hill Road West. We will start with the staff presentation, and I would note that the staff report recommends denying this application. So Mr. Ian Walker, our planner, if you could please approach the podium, sir, and give us your staff presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. And through the chair, let's get my presentation started here. So this is for the application for a draft plan of condominium conversion for 700 Park Hill Road West. I'm going to try and go through this very quickly for you. So the current owner applicant, C-Reg 700 Park Hill Inc., purchased the property about 4 years ago. It's got 128 units on it. All of them are 3 bedrooms. The lot area there is about, little over 2.5 hectares in size. And the proposed use would change it, just simply a change in tenure from one property with 128 rental units to 128 condominium ownership units. Of course, the property there on Park Hill is straddled by Jackson Park to the north, Park Hill on the south. Moving along here, get a good view of the aerial there. There's a couple apartment buildings just to the southeast of the townhouse units in here. And here's just a couple views from Park Hill Road. This view here looking from basically kind of the north end of Medical Drive and Park Hill, looking to the northeast. And this view is where the driveway enters the site on the southeast corner. So as I noted, it's just changing the tenure, going from rental to ownership. It's a large property with 128 units, and they're townhouse style units. The current owner is proposing that what they would do is also become a manager of the condominium corporation. They would sell the units to private investors as income properties, and they would continue to rent out all of the units. So they are proposing at this time that the units would stay 128 rental units still, just in condominium ownership. It would allow an opportunity for anybody that's in the condominium to get a first right of refusal as far as purchasing those units. This is just a copy of the plan here showing the existing layout of the site. These are essentially how the units are structured. So there's 4 units that kind of share one common access point or entranceway to them. So you have a unit here with the yard and unit here with the yard in behind, and then same on the other side. So we've reviewed the application in the context of the provincial policy, being the provincial planning statement, and in the context of the city's official plan, our strategic plan, and our municipal housing pledge. Just noting that the applicant held a tenant open house on June 18th. There were approximately 40 residents of the complex in attendance to that, and notice of this application was circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. So that meant that we mailed notices to all landowners within 120 meters. We posted it on the city's website and in the newspaper. As of writing this presentation, there were 2 tenants that had been in contact with us expressing opposition. I do note that I believe in your application packages, you would have seen an additional piece of correspondence that came in this morning as well. So the original recommendation was to refuse the request for residential condominium. One of the things that has happened since preparing this presentation, we met with the applicant last week to advise them of the staff recommendation. They have provided us with some additional material in terms of looking at affordable potential for affordable units for this. Staff have not been able to assess that material at this time. The applicant has noted that they will be requesting that the committee consider deferring the application, and staff would not object to that deferral should the committee wish to defer the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Walker? Councillor Duguay, please.
Thank you, Chair Parnell. Mr. Walker, thank you for your presentation. Sir, in your research this file, could you find any record of a previous condominium conversion application for this property?
Through the chair to the councillor, I did not find a record specifically of a previous application. However, I did find a record that referred to a I guess like a query to staff about making an application, and in that that query, it was circa 2001, I believe. It had noted that staff did not support making an application at that time.
Chair Parnell, the reason for the inquiry, because in 2001, I think that inquiry was made of potentially of my office. At the time, the position of the municipality, admittedly under a different policy, official plan, but it had similar principles about protecting affordable housing stock, different provincial policies. The position of staff at the time was not to support the conversion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Riel.
Through the chair to Mr. Walker, when I was reading this report, there's a lot of holes in it. Has to do around with the Condo Act. I don't know if the proponent is here tonight and going to speak to that, but there's some misleading information here around what the Condo Act is and what the Condo Act does. I happen to be a condo owner. I happen to be the president of a condo association, and I also have to take the course under the Condo Act to be that board. So I find a lot of the stuff in this report is misleading about what actually the Condo Act does and the incorporation of a condo board and reserve study and the study fund and all of the requisite things that are in here. And also who is going to be the maintenance person or the peer person in the Sigma company here, that's picked by the board who will be there, will do this kind of work. So there's a lot of misleading things in here. Maybe my question should be if the proponent is coming up here and ask him, because there's a lot of information here that is not factual in the running of a condo under the Condo Act.
Mr. Walker, did you want to answer to that, or should we defer to legal counsel?
Well, I will note that the applicant is registered as a deputant tonight, so you will be able to direct your questions to him. I didn't actually hear a question in that request. I just heard some information. I will note that the staff planning report is looking at the aspects of condominium conversion, not specifically what the Condominium Act does or doesn't do beyond post-conversion.
Thank you very much for that observation. Any for, Mayor Leo, you have.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, what's the history in the city of Peterborough of such conversions like this, going from apartments to condominiums?
Through the chair, there's not a long history of condo conversions. I am aware of a few conversions. There are some on Ford Street. The last condo conversion applications that I was aware of that I was able to find any record of were mid to late 1990s. So,
If I could ask one more question, Mr. Walker, this is pretty unique. These are 3-bedroom apartments that are pretty scarce. Is that typical of the conversion from apartments to a condominium corporation?
through the chair, I don't know if I could comment that is typical. The condo conversion process would apply to any rental property where somebody wanted to convert them to the condominium tenure, but whether they would typically relate to all 3 bedrooms, it's unknown to me.
Thanks very much, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Crowley, please.
Thank you through you, Chair. What is staff's, would staff's recommendation have changed at all? Because based on some of the communication that we've received, it's obvious that we've had a lot of complaints from residents regarding the state outstanding repairs in the building. Did that have any effect on staff's recommendation on whether to deny the application or deny the recommendation?
Thank you through the chair. That's not really a factor for staff to consider in terms of the condo conversion. One of the reports that the applicant had to prepare was they had to do an engineering study to look at the state of the existing structures. If there were repairs that need to be made immediately, the engineer on record for them would identify those repairs that would need to be made immediately. They would also be looking at what other repairs might be forthcoming in the short term or long-term future, so that helps them decide how much money to set aside perhaps for repairs. But only those repairs that would need to be done immediately would be identified in that report. And then that's not really, from a planning perspective, for us to look at in terms of the conversion process.
Through you, Madam Chair. So this engineering report, we wouldn't see, it wouldn't be part of the package for us to be able to make a decision on council.
Through the chair, the engineering report is part of the materials that were received by the planning division. Now, the recommendations of that report, again, if council were to approve the condominium conversion, staff would be recommending a condition that would be placed in the draft plan conditions that they would need to satisfy in order to ensure that any repairs were done in a timely manner prior to the registration.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Walker? Seeing none, thank you, sir. And we will move to our registered delegation portion of the meeting. And our first delegate is Mr. Paul Curtis. If you could please come forward to the podium, sir. So we do request that you state your name and address for the official record, please, sir. And you have 5 minutes. I'll try to give you a warning about 4 minutes in without horribly interrupting you. Okay.
That's fine. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. I'm Paul Curtis. I'm from 700 Park Hill, Unit 103. My concern today is affordability. We all know I've been a Peterborough resident all my life. I moved away for work for a portion of about 2 years, came back and found that the renting stock was abhorrent, to say the least. I was able to find the Park Hill units. It is an ideal place for a growing family. I have 3 sons. Park's perfect. The issue that I have is the fact that the current owners, Searig, they purchased this with a plan to go into condo conversion. They bought a lemon and they knew they bought a lemon. Okay. We knew as residents that they were eventually trying to do this through word of mouth, through, let's say, you could say it's hearsay. However, I'm a big firm proponent of put your money where your mouth is. How are we supposed to trust a landlord that can't fix a toilet flushing incident for over a year? I had to come to the city council. I had to email the mayor, my councilors. Took over a year to get that solved. And then I received a retaliatory N4 over a shed that then I went to the city about, and the building inspector said it was perfectly legal. Okay. I don't mean to defame their members. They are great people. I've had wonderful conversations with them. I respect them, but they're thinking of it from a business side. I came from Walmart. I worked my way up through management, and I was an operations manager for the Lansdowne store. I know what it takes to maintain $1 million building. They are not doing that. They are putting Band-Aids and lipstick on a pig. Okay. When it takes 6 months to try and get $110 tap installed, which is still not installed, that's an issue because that creates more problems.
Sir, you need to speak to the planning application, not personalities or.
I understand that. This is what I'm saying is they have their expectation is that if this goes forward, they're going to be able to use new money to try and help with these existing problems that they purchased knowing this. So they're relying on city council to turn a blind eye to their bad purchase because they wanted to help their business ends. That's plain and simple. It seems very simple night and day to me. And that's where I asked the council, I'm grateful for the recommendation. As much as I would love to become an owner of a piece of property, I do not want to become an owner of a piece of property that is not worth the land it's on. Because that is the state of those buildings.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
There may be any questions from Councillor Colley, please.
Thank you through you, Chair. Hey, Paul.
Hi,
Thanks
how
for
you doing?
coming. Regarding the condo conversion, I believe in the report it states the average price of the units would be about $400,000 each.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
It's abhorrent. It's absolutely brutal. Like I understand price market fluctuations and all that kind of stuff. I did take a look at MLS. I lived in Sydenham units for a period of time in my early 20s. And those units, those units are currently selling from around 315 to 370 from what I've seen. So I don't know where they're seeing a 409 evaluation, considering those units are maintained and properly maintained from the look of them. They look way better than when I lived in them. These units that I live in now look about the same as 20 years ago when I lived in those units. So that is a huge concern. My concern of the evaluation and the affordability price is every single one of those units is going to need to be gutted if you wish to have an ownership of a piece of property that you wish to rent. Most of our long existing tenants we're still living in pre-renovated units, and those renovated units that they have done are renovated on top of existing. So we're talking 2 layers of subfloors, 4 layers of tiles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Painting over mold, et cetera, all that kind of stuff. This is a core foundation of why we can't afford things is because we keep on putting Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids. If you let them go through with this condo conversion, it's going to be another Band-Aid. They're going to give ownership to somebody who may not know the history of the building. I know the history of my building because I knew the previous tenant that lived in the house that I lived in now. And that becomes an issue to me because I've seen the work that has been done. I've seen the work that's currently been done. And it frankly scares me. These units are not worth what they say they're worth.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Seeing no further questions, thank you. Our next registered delegate is Jen Lacey, and I believe there's a presentation with this delegation. But please still state your name and address for the official record, and you have 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jen Lacey. My address is 700 Park Hill Road, West. My name's Jen, and I have trust issues. Although tenants do not have any decision-making power regarding this application, it's important to hear our perspectives because if approved, it impacts us the most. I'm asking you that rather than referring to us as 128 units, please consider that we are more than that. We are 128 families. We are a neighborhood. We are a community, and according to the staff report, account for 17% of 3-bedroom units in Peterborough. In my opinion, we're a big deal. Oh, sorry. Given my trust issues, I reviewed the complete application submitted to the city, reviewed the staff report, and created a tenant survey, which I would like to share with you. There were 47 respondents to my survey, and this survey is anecdotal evidence only. How long have you lived at Park Hill Place? 66% of tenants have lived at Park Hill Place for over 5 years. This demonstrates that Park Hill Place has provided housing stability for residents of Peterborough, and families have been able to raise their children in one place without displacement or disruption. What are your reasons for living at Park Hill Place? 66% of tenants surveyed reported that it was because the rent is affordable. And if they clicked other, they were able to provide specific comments which you could read. Those comments also reflected the affordability was a reason for them to move. What is your source of income? 70% are employed, 15% are on a fixed or low income, and a small percentage are self-employed. Approximately 74% don't have a good understanding of the condo conversion plan. This is the important question. Would you be eligible to purchase a mortgage should you wish, would you be eligible for a mortgage should you wish to purchase your unit? This by far is the most important question. 72% were clear that no, they would not be eligible, and the 21% who answered other, they were unsure, and one suggested that it would be a bad investment due to the lack of repairs and maintenance of the units. And the staff report indicates that the price to sell the units for the tenants is $409,000. And do you have concerns with the conversion plan? 97% answer, or 98 answered yes. And one person said, we can't even get a work order completed. You think we know anything about the conversion plan? Okay, what I am worried about. I am worried about the impact this will have on current and future tenants. It's an investor-driven model, so buyers are told that the existing tenants will pay their mortgage, and this will encourage absentee ownership. This could lead to underfunded condo corporations and the deterioration of housing conditions. Long-term maintenance problems. If maintenance is currently being deferred while it is a rental property, the cost could be transferred to the condo owners. Converting a poorly maintained building transfers the financial risk to the new owners, and there's a risk that the owners would have to pay a large sum of money for a special assessment to address the problems. Risk to tenants. Tenants may experience even slower repairs, as new and inexperienced landlords may not understand the legal obligations. Tenants may feel pressured to leave through neglect of their unit, and financially strained owners could fall further behind on repairs. I would like to end with the following quote from the staff report that I read. According to the staff report, 40% of families that live at Park Hill Place live in affordable housing. It should be noted that these affordable rent units are not currently protected by an affordable housing agreement with the city. I want to make it clear, neither the city or the landlords at Park Hill Place created this affordable housing. We did. The tenants did. And I'm asking you to please put that into consideration when making the decision regarding this application.
Are you okay?
Yep.
Are
Yep,
you
you're right.
finished?
That's all.
No, you did great. Okay, and we do have a couple of questions. Thank you for the presentation. That was great. Okay, so the first question is from Councillor Crowley and then Councillor Rio.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jen, so much. That was great. You did amazing. Fantastic. That was wonderful. You brought, we like media. This is great. From your, I know you did the survey, and the survey was tip top. I remember when you did it, we had a lot of input on it, but or feedback from it. But from your conversations with people who around the complex who maybe didn't show up to the public meetings or whatever, and that you talked to them, what were their thoughts regarding the thought of affordability and condo fees, property taxes, and
I think it's messy and it's really hard to understand. Like, I got the complete package that they submitted to the city and reviewed it, gave it to someone who also has a way better understanding than I do. And we still couldn't understand it. So if you're, I guess if you're not getting all the information, even with the information I got, I couldn't understand it.
yeah.
What I do know is current tenants wouldn't be evicted. So that's the plus. But if, say, I moved out and another tenant moved in, I don't know if they would be protected.
No, that's great. No, and I appreciate you being here, Jen. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Rio.
Through the chair to Ms. Lacey. Jen, thank you very much for being here. Hot on the heels of Councillor Crowley. Were the information you were given about condo ownership or condo, could you briefly give me a rundown of what they told you or what was basically in the brochure or what you were given?
Okay, so and I attended that meeting, and I got a brochure. Essentially, the owner would be an investor or the tenant, and then Surreg would manage the property or the condo for the owner.
Through the chair to Ms. Lacey, I mean, Councillor Crowley alluded to the fact that there's condo fees,
Right.
there's property taxes. There has to be a reserve study done, and that's a reserve fund
Mm-hmm.
to fix any repairs, and that's something that's looking into the future, probably 30 to 40 years. There's the institution of a condo board, which is the owners of a condo. The property manager is picked by the condo people.
Yes, question, please.
Well, I'm going through here because I'm going to ask the same question of the owners of what she knew of the meeting and was presented to her of a condo conversion. And she's telling me, and I'm giving her some ideas here of some of the questions that should have been asked or conveyed to them at the meeting by the owner.
Please ask the question.
So that's the question I'm asking, and that has to do, it's against the law to rent or sublet without the owners knowing about it. Did you know that?
No.
and the repairs to the condo is done for the inside is at your expense.
They said that it would be through the, sorry, I apologize because it's been a while since that meeting. But my understanding is that with the condo, like the condo fees would pay for the external. And then the owner would be responsible for the interior.
And that's what I'm trying to get at.
Mhm.
You're responsible for the inside, the condo fees that
The
you're
owner
going to
would.
pay. The reserve fund has to pay for the outside. So
Right.
I'm just asking, what was the, how did this meeting go and what was conveyed to you? Because these are the questions that, if you
Yeah.
knew, you would ask.
Yeah. And we were told tenants wouldn't pay into the condo fee. It would be the owners.
Thank you, Councillor Burke.
Chair Barnell, thank you, and through you to Ms. Lacey, Jen, thank you. I just appreciate your effort on this, Councillor Crowley and Councillor Basiliadis's effort. I was surprised when I read the report after hearing about the issue. My son has a friend who's a new Canadian who lives on the site, and I found out from him that this was happening when he was saying that his family was having to look for a new place to live. So my question is, were you surprised? I was very surprised to read the report that we actually have policy in place with conversions like this that look at it through an affordability lens.
I wasn't because I asked. And Councillor Crowley gave me the information, but yeah.
Thank you. I just think it's a good thing
Yeah.
to know that these safeguards exist, not based on personalities, not based on anything, but through that lens of affordability from the housing side of the city. I think as someone who's the co-chair of housing and homelessness, I was surprised in this case where the city had policy that actually sides with people that are struggling with affordability instead of siding with development and building and these things. So I just wanted to make that point.
Can I add something? The 40% affordable housing at Park Hill Place is because tenants have stayed there for so long. It's their home.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Lacey. Our next registered delegate is Sam Debris. If you could come out, please. Samantha. Welcome. If you could officially state your name and address for the record, we'd appreciate it. Thank you for
Sam
being
Debit,
here.
700 Park Hill Road West. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is, so currently, without a condo conversion, we are, as tenants, still afforded the right to reasonable enjoyment of our units. Now, I'm not sure the engineering report that we talked about. I obviously haven't seen it either, and I don't know how that would have been completed. I can tell you that there's been nobody in my unit to inspect or do any of those things. And to my knowledge, mine is probably one of the ones in better condition, and still would require some extensive repairs to make it saleable, insurable, to be sold. So my concern with that is that Siri has said nothing will change. We will, we can't be evicted for the purchaser's personal use, but we could potentially be evicted, rent evicted, because I don't see a way that, from what I know of a lot of the things that are going to be required in these units to make them saleable and insurable for another person, how they would be able to live in those units while they were being renovated, which means they're not legally required to offer them back to those tenants once they've forced them to leave because to complete those renovations. Beyond that, there is then the potential for them to apply to the board for rent increases above the guideline, which they've given no guarantee that they won't do that. And I mean, they have only owned the property for 2 years, which means I have a lot of experience with the act and with the board. And if they cite, how many years of neglect that was not their fault, that was the previous owner's fault, and we had to take on all this expense, then that's going to fall on, they're going to get an order for increases above the guideline, and it's going to fall on the tenants. And that's before any of this even takes place. As far as the sale of the unit, as my neighbors have said, the vast majority of tenants at 700 Park Hill would not be in a position to purchase their units. Those that could, my husband and I actually discussed it and said, well, what kind of condition does this unit have to be in for me? I certainly wouldn't pay $400,000 for it in the condition that it's in now. The report says in order for it to be considered affordable, 311,000-ish, thereabouts. I don't have the exact number in front of me. Even at that, if it would have to be brought up to code by a management that has already done the bare minimum to get by, like, so the conversation that I had is, could we then negotiate a lower price and do that work ourselves, because they already do terrible work. I have, as was said, I have 3 layers of tiles and no grout in my bathroom for 8 years, and no way to prove. So now it's considered my responsibility, and I know that this isn't about the improvements, but I'm just saying this is the how Sarga operates. I have no way to prove that those came, that I tried to deal with those before, that I didn't just sit on that problem. So they will bill tenants, they will invoice tenants for repairs and say that they're their fault, so that we don't then go and ask for repairs, because I don't want them to tell me that my next floor is on me, and I don't have time to fight them at the board every 6 months either, right? So that part of it is just unrealistic. And like I said, there's just a ton of repairs required that I don't, in my experience, they do not act in good faith. We talked about deferring the decision because to provide you with further information. They will get you something that says what you want them to say to get this by. And
1 minute, okay?
yes, they will do the bare minimum that's needed to get this by, and then we will all sort of live in the same conditions. And I think I just don't, I just think it's a terrible idea. Like, I just don't think that anything improves for us at 700 Park Hill. And I believe we've heard a few times tonight, they say nothing will change. Well, if there's no reason to do it, then why bother? And certainly I don't think that things will improve as far as housing initiatives, as far as sort of what the citizens of Peterborough, what the city is about. I think will only get worse if people are rent evicted. There is nowhere else for us to go that is affordable in a safe neighborhood. It just doesn't exist outside of where we are now. So that is all.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have a question for you from Councillor Crowley.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So the one thing that I'm picking up, and good to see you again, Sam. The one thing that I'm picking up is something that you mentioned surrounding trust. And I think that when we had our public meeting, I think one of the things that I picked up on, which wasn't hard to pick up on, was the same feeling, that lack of trust permeated through every conversation that I had. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that? How there's do you find that there's the same lack of trust that is with other residents as well? Did you get that
Like
feeling from everybody else?
For the ownership of absolutely. Like they advertise that their purpose is to get investors that never have to see the property, never have to deal with the property, never have to look at a tenant, never have to deal with a tenant, just collect their money. So they don't have any concern for the citizens of Peterborough or for whether our housing is affordable. They don't care. Like, that's not what they're in business to do. I mean, they don't need to. I don't know them. I'm not offended by it. That's not what they're in business to do. They're in business to collect investors and send them money. And the report states that under a condo board, there would be more money for maintenance. I don't think that money is the issue. I think it's a management issue. And it sounds like they're saying we would be under the same management. So again, we're in the same place,
Right.
as we were before, except we're we're paying more money because it's cost them so much money to get us there.
Right.
So,
No, and I think that when we had our conversation through you, Chair, our conversations sort of touched on a lot of that. And I know that you were mentioning, what did you say, right to reasonable enjoyment, which I love. And it is, you touched a little bit on the maybe you would consider being an owner if it was in better condition. And you said that yours is one of,
if there was a better circumstance, absolutely.
yeah, and you mentioned that it was, yours is in pretty good condition comparatively to some.
From what I've heard, yeah.
Yeah. So have you seen worse conditions?
I've
in the-
seen pictures of other people's units, and I've heard, you know, basements flooding and holes in walls and leaking and things like that.
Yeah.
Mine were just shoddy renovations that didn't particularly last very long. So mine's, you know, but still would require like a lot of work
Right.
to get it to a point where it could even be sold.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be willing to purchase it for 400, probably for even 300 in the
Right.
condition mine's in right now. So there's others in
Yeah.
worse positions than I am. There are many units that aren't even as close as mine is, right?
Right.
So it would cost them a lot of money to get it there. And I don't believe that that wouldn't come out of our pockets.
Well, thank you very much, Sam, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank
So
you.
thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Burke, quick question of clarification, please.
Thank you. Chair Parnell, through you to Miss Drebbit. Cool. My question to you is just, you're at council tonight. We've heard a lot in other municipalities, bigger cities, urban cities, Hamilton, Toronto, where the issue of rent eviction is a bigger issue than how we've experienced it here. But I'm listening to what you're talking about, and based on your current situation, by what was being proposed, do you think that council should look at ways to safeguard tenants in rent eviction situation?
I feel like if there were more assurances, I'm sure that we would probably feel better than that. That, you know, they can't say, oh, you can't live in your unit while we do these repairs.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the thought is that as soon as this conversion were to go through, there's going to be somebody in my house every day, and I'm going to have to find someone to take care of my dogs or do what, like, we all have different circumstances why it's not convenient for people to just come in my house and roam around while I'm at work to do these repairs or do whatever inspections they need to do. Like, I feel like that is going to initially be a huge issue. And then, yeah, if there were more assurances, there just have been no assurances outside. You won't get evicted when your property is sold, but there's been no assurance that I won't get asked to leave my property because it needs to be renovated, or that I won't have to fight an application at the board for an increase above guidelines because of the amount of money that it took to renovate my unit to be sold, or any of those things. There's just no assurances outside. They've given one, nothing will change. You can't be evicted if your property is sold. Well, there's a million ways to make our lives miserable outside of just evicting us because our property was sold, right?
Finally, through the chair, are you and the other residents of 700 Park Hill worried about the impacts of Bill 60 on how this might change things for the situation that you're in?
I mean, I'm not. It on its surface, it has made it easier to evict people. I feel like that's a lot more to do with payment of rent and things like that. So I don't know if it would necessarily fall into this category, but then it could if our rent becomes unaffordable. And if they could get that through in 1 month and don't have to negotiate, then it definitely could down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. You took a question on provincial legislation even.
I did.
You should be proud of yourself. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so our next registered delegate is Matt Jervis. If you can come forward, please. And Mr. Jarvis, just to repeat, we do need you to state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes, and I'll try to give you a 1 minute warning, okay? I never have to list that up.
Hi. Matt Jarvis. I live at 700 Park Hill. So I've lived at 700 Park Hill for about 14 years. I'm currently the general manager at Sadler House, the community center that's just up the road from you guys. 14 years ago, I was a young parent out looking for somewhere to live. Uh, I was a student at Trent University and I was working full time at the same time in order to try to make things work for my family. And when I came to 700 Park Hill, my wife was extremely disappointed. The units were in terrible condition, but the rent was extremely affordable because it reflected the condition of the spaces. And I figured I'm a pretty handy guy. I'm a property manager by trade now. And at that time, I was just an aspiring property manager. And I figured I could take the savings from the rent in order to just invest a little bit into the unit myself, make it livable for my young family. And I've managed to grow my life and my family at 700 Park Hill right now. The plan initially was to save up for a mortgage, but unfortunately, in the last 14 years, the housing market has changed significantly. And as the general manager of a mid-sized charity, I'm still saving. I want to thank the city staff for their thoughtful report. I believe that they came to the right decisions for the right reasons. While I was able to find affordable housing in the city in these units that have been under repaired, there seems to be less and less room for someone like me 14 years ago in this city, which is unfortunate. I think that I add a little bit to the community now, and I wouldn't have been able to if I wasn't able to find housing. CERIG has not been an organized or effective property manager. I think it's important to note in this point that although CERIG was the first of the 3 REITs that have owned the property since I've lived there, they were the first one to have in their business plan condo conversions. All of the companies that have owned these units have been terrible landlords, all of them. We will skip routine maintenance on some items for years. Structurally important renovations like cleaning eaves troughs, repairing retaining walls, handrails at less than 2 feet, maybe. I invite you to come to our property and take a look at the stairs. These were built at a time where you didn't have to level out ground, so there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of stairs. Our stairs are currently rotted out 4x4s and asphalt that have been clad in 2x6s that are screwed onto them. My dad just visited this weekend and he couldn't come up to my place because his knees just is too dangerous, right? The plants growing out of the asphalt. The parking lot paint is gone, doesn't exist. The end result is typical of what we've seen over the last few years of speculative real estate investment, a bad job accomplished by someone who isn't paid enough or doesn't have the capacity to have the skills necessary to do a good job. Maybe I think from my words right now and from my fellow tenants, this sounds pretty damning to management at CERIG. But again, I really want to point out that although CERIG is not a good landlord, none of the REITs have been good. I agree with everything that everyone said. I've had to erase some of my comments because these were excellent delegations. I just want to argue that it's going to be impossible for a good faith actor to appear to save these units. Okay, it's not going to happen. Your staff's report said that this is 20% of the 3-bedroom purpose-built rental units in the city, 40% of which are affordable. I would really want you to imagine that these are low-income families, right? That's who lives there. And even if they get to stay, they will not. There's going to be one less unit for low-income families. If this happens, if I have to leave for whatever reason, I'm going to be okay. Okay, I'm not going to be happy about it. It goes against my plans. It will affect my future staying in Peterborough, which is already precarious for those of us who missed our window to purchase in the city. But there will be no more of me. Every time a decision like this gets made, there's no more of me. And maybe some people would think that's a good thing, but not me. These places will never be nice. Okay, they'll never be nice.
Wrap it up,
But they could be fine. Okay, and that's what we need. We need more housing units that are fine and affordable. Thank you again to city staff for the thoughtful report.
Thank you. Mr. Jarvis, are there any questions for Mr. Jarvis? Okay, Councillor Crowley?
Thank you, Chair. So thanks again, Matt, for coming. It was great talking to you the other day. It was a lot of coffee. I was on edge. What scares you the most about the potential of this turning into a condo complex?
I'm not scared. You know, I think that this is I think that the property isn't being managed well now. I don't understand how that would change in the future. I'm sure that I believe that we've been told that it would change in the future, but I don't understand how that works. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you're a good manager now, you're going to be a good manager later. That's true. I think my biggest fear is what I said before, that if we take 3-bedroom rentals off market, if we take them off market, like, and maybe the tenants now are protected, then the next, like, people who are coming to, we've got a liberal arts university in town. These aren't all trained doctors and lawyers. They are people who are working in social services and culture. Where are they going to live? They have to live somewhere, right? And I'm not calling on Syrig to be a charitable actor. They're business. They have to make money, right? I just don't see how this change. I think the thing that scares me, I don't see how this changes unless, like, maybe like non-profit or like municipally controlled housing corporation were to take control over neighborhoods like this. Like, maybe there could be small improvements, but it's a bad investment, right? That's why we're going to have bad faith actors, because it's a bad investment. You got to find a creative way of making money off of some of the most vulnerable people in Peterborough.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks, Matt. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much. Okay, and I do believe we have the owner or the agent for the owner to speak. Todd Slater from the Simple Company, if you could come forward. Welcome, sir. And if you could state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Todd C. Slater, and I live at 1075 Sutton in Burlington, Ontario. Anyways, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. And again, you know, it's interesting, some of the comments that are being made regarding what a condominium conversion. Nice to see you again, Councillor. In fact, if you remember, we invited you to our town hall. And I think your comments actually were that you thought we did a really good job presenting to everybody what was going on. So let me just explain a couple of things to everybody, because I think there seems to be a lot of misinformation that gets, you know, put out. Everybody gets scared. And everybody, if you don't understand what a condominium conversion truly is, then yeah, people will get scared. Because one of the things, just so you know, I've been in business for 30 years. I am a licensed condominium manager plus president, so just so we can chat later about that. But the truth is that for 30 years, we've been able to make sure that tenants never get affected in condominium conversion. First and foremost, we work always with the province on this. And when an area meets requirements, we are allowed and permitted to do a condominium conversion. Now, one of the important things is every tenant will have grandfathered tenancy. We can never evict a tenant. Also, based on the province of Ontario, the only increase that we can put in is our standard increased rents, which would be 2.5% this year. We have never done above guideline increase since we started. We've never done a special assessment. Tenants are not responsible for property taxes. They're not responsible for condominium fees. And the people who are truly the real estate investors are actually just people just like you. And the reason why I say that is because when I started the business, I didn't like the big landlords. In fact, dead set against them. And the company I bought the property from, they were right. Very negligent landlords. Now, we only have such deep pockets because we're not that big a company. Now, we do manage 3,000 units across Ontario, and these are all investor owned. Now, just so we're clear, not one tenant has ever been evicted to go owner occupied. Not one tenant's ever been evicted unless it's for non-payment of rent. And on top of that, one of the most important things is that when you create a condominium, the actual repairs do increase because there is a combined share. So why do investors want to invest in real estate? Honestly, Ontario sucks. Okay, we all know that. But when we take a look at the big picture of the landlord rules right now, okay, they're not slanted towards a landlord, they're more slanted towards a tenant. But the one thing is that we've learned the rules to know that, look, you don't need to have bad tenants and you can get tenants to actually pay their rents. That's one of the biggest problems for landlords. They don't understand that part of it. So that's why we started the management program. Now, I did this when I created the Simple Investor over 20 years ago. One of the most important things for me was I don't want to see a bad relationship between tenants and landlords. And now it's a tough thing because if anybody's ever been a landlord here, you know that if you don't get paid rent, see, the one thing that the people behind me don't realize is that right now, there's probably 20% outstanding rents right now in that development. But we still have to pay the taxes that you all expect us to pay, which makes us one of your biggest tax contributors in the neighborhood. Okay, we have to make sure that happens. Any investor will have to do the same. Okay, we have to pay our mortgages. And yeah, there's repairs that have to be done. Is there some latent repairs? Of course. And I'll tell you why. Because when we bought the property, and as some of the tenants have expressed, they've been there for 14 years. And they said right out, it's a piece of junk. Well, we haven't been in their units necessarily to say, okay, what do we have to take? Can we see the 2 layers, of flooring? Now, when repairs are required, yeah, there can be times where we get delayed. I can tell you I've got a list of the people that actually spoke tonight about the repairs that have been done to date. Okay, we're well aware that being a landlord is not the easiest thing. I'll tell you one of the hard things about being a landlord is also finding good people to do the job. Okay, and on that note, for us, it's we've gone through staff. We took staff over when we bought the property and they were horrible. So we had to get rid of them. I'm pretty sure most of you know here in Peterborough, it's tough to hire sometimes. And ultimately, in the end, all we want to do is get decent management in place in a condominium conversion. It's very important that we do get the maintenance taken care of. Now, I hope you have a lot of questions for me because I'm really happy to answer them. We've done 2,000 units in Ontario for conversion. Not one tenant has ever had to leave. I think it's a very important note.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Crowley, please.
Yeah, it's great to see you again, Todd, through you, Chair. Yeah, we met at the public information session. And yeah, it was really great. It started to get a little bit out of hand at the end. There were a lot of upset residents at the end, and a little bit of back and forth. You mentioned that there was an issue with people getting scared about condo conversions, and I'm just wondering if, as somebody who's familiar with that complex and the state of disrepair of some of the units, do you understand why some people may be scared about having a condo conversion, especially when it just seems like it is as has been communicated to me, potentially a money grab, something like buying a low-income housing and putting it up, and we don't care about the residents, and there's
so
and I'm just
no problem. I'm happy to have the conversation.
Sure.
Okay,
Yep.
Again, you cannot offend me on my business model. Okay, but here's what I can tell you. Do you know where my business model started? Right here in Peterborough on Ford Street, which, by the way, the correct information is that in 2009 is when Ford Street was converted. Okay, and my partner who did the conversion, we actually brought in the investor base, and from there, so over 16 years ago, we have been doing this. Okay, and not one tenant ever gets removed. Now, I understand why you're saying, are people concerned because of the conditions of the property? We, again, will sit there, and if you remember during our meeting, and just so everybody knows, a lot of people didn't even know how to submit a proper form. In fact, some of them didn't know what website to go to. So immediately, what did we do? We offered it right there at the meeting. We sent out 128 sheets of paper saying, if you have a work order you'd like to do. Do you know we took care of 60 work orders within the first 2 months of that? So it wasn't that we're just an absentee landlord, because I would disagree with that, and I won't accept that. But what I will accept is that, yeah, there's still issues to be dealt with. When we bought that property, there was definitely a absentee landlord. Okay, they're the big corporations. Now, one note that I want to make sure everybody understands about this process is that if it remains an apartment, You do not have control of the rents, just so you know. If it remains an apartment title, one title, all 128 units, I can rent evict, I can do above guidelines, okay? And we can do that. And whatever becomes vacant will automatically go to the highest rent possible. That's what an apartment owner is allowed to do in Ontario. But we made a commitment that we will never do above guideline increases. The tenants do not have to pay any extra. Okay. And when we do it, we've never rent evicted from day one. I've never done a rent eviction. Okay. There's no point in it. In fact, the only thing we've done is we've swapped units. So if a unit was in really bad repair, which again, these units can be 30, 40, 50 years old. But if I buy something 2 years ago, I can't be held responsible for all the work that's been done before. We've actually moved tenants to another unit while we did the work. So it's not beyond our scope of what these complaints are or what their concerns are. The reason why I asked for a deferral for this evening was talking to the planning department. And one of the things that we do recognize here in Peterborough is the affordable housing issue. Now, just to let you know, we've converted 362 units in Brockville recently. It exists of 14 buildings, okay? And not one tenant will get upended at all. And ultimately, in the end, here, okay, our focus is that we do want to work with the city. Like I said, I'm one of your biggest contributors right now to your tax base. So why wouldn't I want to continue, especially with my investor base? My investor base are mom and pops. Okay, they're the people that just don't have time to run out and take care of a tenant. So they're not malicious people. They don't drive sports cars. You know, maybe they're buying a unit to put their kids through university. I can tell you that I get emails and letters from people all the time saying, hey, Todd, you know what? My daughter just graduated. You know, that's what we did this for. We didn't do it to become rich, and it's not to sit there and create problems for people. You know, I'm actually anti large corporations. I'm not a fan of it. Okay, this is about as dressed as I'll get for you. Okay, sorry, I don't wear ties. But the truth is, I don't believe in those landlords because all they've ever done is create problems for tenants and landlords.
Thank you. Did you want your second?
Yeah,
comment?
I'm just going to ask one more question, and
Please.
um, so currently do you have a property management company that looks after the units and the repairs, or is it individual general contractors that you hire?
So depending on the marketplace, okay, we work with either third-party contractors from the area. So it would be normally your licensed contractors, being your gas fitters or electricians, because we have to make sure that we meet code at all times. If not, we will generally work with our supers on site who can do minor repairs. Now, we had problems with supers at the site, I can tell you that. Okay, we had a huge gap and we were scrambling to get work done. Okay, it's just part of the industry. Unfortunately, being a landlord's not glorified. Okay, it isn't. The reason why I've asked for just a deferral tonight, I'm not asking for a yes or no. You can say no to me a month from now, but we recognize from the planning department that you are concerned very much with affordable housing. So we're seeing what we can do with the model to give you guaranteed affordable housing. And how do we do that? Well, during a condominium registration, and by the way, the company continues to own a decent stake of units at all times. We have the ability of committing those title wise, okay, so it can be registered on title, that these must stay within your guidelines of affordable housing. Now, I don't know if everybody knows what affordable housing is here in Peterborough. Do you know what your numbers are? Because I can tell you that right now, affordable housing actually works in most business models. Okay, if you're talking about $1,600 a month rent for a 3-bedroom, that works in a standard business model just fine. So this is the thing. So we're not greedy here. Okay, the idea of putting a price, this is a suggested price. With tenants, it may be negotiated lower. So these are the kind of things for us. And again, talking to tenants about what this effect has was one of the main things that we always come out with. So tenants are protected. The rents cannot be forced up other than what the provincial guidelines are. They are not responsible for any repairs, condominium fees, and there's no owner that is permitted to turn around and sell it unless it stays tenanted with the existing tenant, and they're not permitted to move into it. And we actually put that in our condominium declarations.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Councillor Rail?
Through the chair to Ms. Slater. A condo is nothing more than a glorified apartment.
True. It's a fragmented title.
You stated that, you know, I mean, you're trying to shift the burden of the repairs onto the condo owners.
No, I didn't say that. You're
No,
misquoting me.
but that's what you're doing.
No, it's not what I said.
No, but that's what you're doing
No, it's not what we're doing.
Okay.
because I happen
Question.
to be a condo owner.
Well, and congratulations. I understand that
And
many people here would be
cost-
condo owners.
Cost of repairs to my unit
Yes.
fall on me.
To a
The
certain degree, yes.
Cost of the maintenance of the building of the outside.
Of course, it's a shared unit.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay, through the chair, and not arguing, question of clarification, please.
Well, I asked the guy a question and he says, that is wrong. Well, I'm telling him it is right because I'm a condo owner
Okay.
and also the president of the condo association where I live.
Okay.
And also registered with the condo association and the courses I've taken.
So have
I
I.
know a little bit about being a condo owner.
Right, but but what you're saying is I'm shifting responsibility. No, what we're doing is we're sharing the responsibility for expenses. No, you're implying that we're sitting there saying we can be negligent until the condominium pays for it. That's not it at all. So if you've truly been a member of a condominium, you'll understand what special assessments are. If I've never done one in 20 years, what does that tell you to management?
I'm not going to argue with you, so stop right now.
That's fair.
I
Great.
know how I'm voting, so.
Well, like I
Thank
said,
you.
here's the thing that I would suggest. If you give us a deferral, meaning that we're not going to do anything right now, obviously, if we turn around and we prove to you why this actually does make some sense for the city of Peterborough, because it actually does. If you want protection of rental units, this is a smart way of doing it. Because under the Condominium Act, I cannot kick people out and I will not do any special assessments and I will not increase rents above this standard. Now, under me being an apartment owner, I have every right to go above guideline. I can do rent evictions and any rent I decide to go to the next units that become vacant, I will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this goes to committee. I need a mover for discussion. Councillor Duguay.
Thank you, Chair Parnell. I will support the staff recommendation to deny the application. Reference was made by Mr. Walker in his comment with respect to recent condominium conversions in the city of Peterborough. There were 2 condominium conversions on Ford Street and another on Armour Road. I was, at the time, as a private sector planner, involved in those approvals. And some of the council members that are here today would have approved. But what is fundamentally different between those conversions and this conversion on the aforesaid 3 condominium conversions, there was no affordable units in any of the buildings, none. All the market rents, all of them were above the recognized entry level or more. They exceeded what we would consider something to be affordable. And that was important. In this instance, and this is not the only time that an inquiry has been made on this same property, in this instance, we have a community that has a significant portion of affordable 3-bedroom rental units. And it would be hypocritical of ourselves if we were to even contemplate a condominium conversion, because I am not convinced whatsoever, notwithstanding the previous delegation's remarks, that there will not be impact upon the owners. Our provincial policy statement 2020-24 speaks to affordability, speaks to creating and or protecting housing stock. Our own official plan has similar language. For us to approve the application, we would be speaking, we would have to rationalize why it is in keeping with those planning documents. And it's not. We've heard from residents. They live in this community and I'm familiar. I've had friends that have lived here and I visited the community several times. I can't support it. There is an important and valued and long-standing affordable component in this project. This is person's homes, and I am not convinced that the conversion would that it would not have a consequence upon the owners. And with that in mind, and this is a staff recommendation that I would support. And again, to my colleagues, this council has approved previous conversions, but partly the rationale is the capital reserve fund, of which Councillor Real referred to, was shared with council. There was neighborhood meetings. We talked to every tenant, and we convinced council and demonstrated to council that there was no affordable component, none. And that was important to this council and to those residents. This is drastically different. So with that in mind, I cannot support this. I also do not think it would represent appropriate and good planning for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crowley, please, and Councillor Real.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll move the report as well, and the recommendations contained within. After reviewing the report and meeting directly with the residents, I'm going to support this because among everything that was mentioned in the report, the current condition of the complex does not meet the standard that people in our community deserve. I organized resident meetings so tenants could speak freely, and what I heard across the board was strikingly consistent. Many have told me that they have felt unheard for a long time, and that their requests for repairs sometimes go unanswered, and that in some cases, the ongoing issues have affected their day-to-day well-being. Residents also raised concerns about affordability, under which the report clearly outlines. A condo conversion would remove a large number of lower cost rental units from the community, reducing affordable housing options at a time when demand is already high. For many families and individuals on fixed or modest incomes, this could create significant hardship and uncertainty. A conversion of this scale requires confidence in both the physical condition of the building and the stability it offers to the people who live there. And right now, too many repairs remain outstanding. Too many voices have gone unheard. Moving ahead without addressing these concerns would only increase pressure on residents who are already feeling vulnerable. My priority is to the people who call this complex home. They deserve a safe, well-maintained environment, responsive property management, and housing that they can continue to afford. And when residents feel that they don't have a voice, I consider it my responsibility to be that voice. And until meaning improvements are made and their concerns are taken seriously, I cannot support anything that risks further instability for this community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And we will put you down as the official mover since it's in your ward. Okay. Councillor Real.
The Chair, I will be supporting the staff report for several reasons. One, just on the affordability and certainly the shortage of housing and certainly the people that are living there. But the point that I was trying to make is when you take over, and this is a sale. If this was a condo, first time just built, condos, they go up for sale, condo buyers buy them, they're the owner of the building. So there's no difference to me than condo conversion or whatever it is. They're up for sale for $400 and some thousand. So you now become an owner. And as the owner of a condo, you're responsible for condo fees. And that's set of what it's going to cost to continue the building to keep the maintenance up. Then there's property taxes that you have to pay because you are now the owner. Under the Condo Act, you have to have reserve study fund. That is a Bible that you go by of what is going to fail and what needs to be repaired over probably a 30 to 50 year window. And that's the Bible you go by setting condo fees. Also, then you have to have a condo reserve fund. If you don't have a reserve fund, a prudent reserve fund, the gentleman that was just up here talked about an assessment. That means that somebody's knocking at your door and said, we need to put a new roof on, and all you're going to pay and would be X amount of money. And let's say it's $500,000 to put a roof on one of these buildings that are over there. You're now going to give us a check for $10,000 for your portion of it. That's the assessment. That's the type of stuff that goes on. Then there has to be, because you're now an owner, you form a condo board, and that's under the Condo Act. Then you hopefully have a property manager. What these people hope to be is the property manager, and you have to pay them. Then you under the Condo Act, and the condo board can decide if you want to rent or sublet a building or a condo in your building. That's their responsibility. Somebody just doesn't get to come in and say, I'm going to sublet or I'm going to lease this out. It's a condo decision. Also, one of the things, and it used to be, and I think that maybe has gone by the wayside, if you were a condo owner and you were the board member, you could pick who was coming into your building. But under human rights, that may have changed. So, but I used to get calls all the time by real estate agents. This is the person that's coming into your building. Do you agree or disagree with selling them this condo unit? That was the responsibility of me as the president of the Condo Board Association. Repairs to the building are now your sole responsibility inside your condo. So therefore, the company that just built this, and you just heard from the owners of this here, the disrepair of the inside of the building, now you're responsible for fixing the inside of yours, not the responsibility of the person that just owns this building now. Also, you're on the hook for not only repairing the inside, but the maintenance of the outside of the building. These are the type of things that are going on here. That's why I was asking the gentleman here about the condo conversion and what's going on here. And I didn't get the answers I want, but this is the world that I live in because I'm a condo owner. So, and I've taken the course and the press.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Parnell. I agree with the comments that everyone has made. I don't have much to add to the conversation except just to commend staff for the report, to commend Rebecca Morgan Quinn from the housing side, who put the affordability lens on here from the housing side. And lastly, but most importantly, I want to commend my council colleagues to the left of me, Councillor Crowley and Councillor Basiliadis. We were in a panic. I was in a panic when I heard what was happening, and it was just such a relief to know that you guys were handling this in a situation where you met with the residents and have taken their concerns to the table here. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I will be supporting the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further hands up, Councillor Hickey hasn't raised his hand or anything. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Chica. My apologies. Yes. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair Parnell. Through you, I won't be lengthy at all, but just want to particularly thank the residents, the tenants who've spoken tonight that have really painted the canvas for us, and you've shared so honestly the impacts of what something like this would bring, and your stories and the truth of your experience at 700 Park Hill. It's truly something for us as councillors to be aware of and to be fighting for you in all the ways that we can. And I thank my councillor colleagues for the good work that they've done together with you. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you, Chair Parnell.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to a vote. And that is carried 11-0. Thank you. Okay, we are on to, yes, okay. We are on to our next Planning Act application. This is the zoning bylaw amendment for 736 Maryland Avenue. Councillor Duguay will not be participating in this particular item. And Mr. Walker, if you could please join us at the podium for the staff presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Through the chair. So this application is a rezoning application for the property at 736 Maryland Avenue. It's a site, the owner applicant is a numbered company. It's actually a company that's formed with the purpose of of operating as a cooperative housing model. And I know the agent, Laura Stone, is here tonight as well, I think, registered as a deputant to speak. So the property is about 1.3 acres. It's located on the north side of Maryland. It's currently vacant land. It was formerly part of a convent. The building here at the corner, 716, I understand, was a nunnery in years gone by, and in circa 2007, converted into residential units. This was the lands that back in even the 1960s, if you look back at past air photos, was part of their garden area. And it was actually, I think, back in the 60s, even devoid of any vegetation. A lot of that has grown up over the last number of years. So again, you can see here on the air photo that there's quite a few trees there. And I do know from speaking with the applicants, one of the reasons they like this property is the large mature trees on that property. So this is looking from just inside on Maryland, just from Clonsilla, looking kind of to the east. You can see all the vegetation here. And this is just up closer to High Street, looking to the southwest. And you can see Clonsilla down there at the end. Again, the mature vegetation on there. So right now it's currently zoned as a public service district, and they are looking at zoning it to a modified R5 residential district. It would allow a 6-story residential apartment building that contains, they're looking specifically at this point for 42 units. Through the zoning, we would look at putting a range that would allow them as low as 35 and as high as 54 residential units. And as I noted, it's a proposed cooperative housing model, and the reliefs are mainly for setbacks and height. So I've got a concept plan here. What they've done is situated the building in the center of the property with the parking on the eastern portion, trying to work with the lay of the land here because the site does slope from the kind of northeast corner up here, and it slopes down towards the southwest corner here. So they're trying to work with the existing grades to make this work well for them. And you can see on here, all the green circles, they're proposing to try to retain as much vegetation as they can on that portion. So this view here would be actually looking from this corner here, kind of looking to the southeast. So this would be the back portion of the building. So this application was reviewed in the context of provincial. So again, in the context of the provincial planning statement 2024, our city official plan, where the property is designated in the major mixed use corridor, and which is of course part of the strategic growth area, in accordance with our strategic plan and our municipal housing pledge for 4,700 units. The applicant held a virtual open house on July 11th, 2024, which was attended by approximately 6 individuals. And my understanding is there were no questions or concerns raised by those individuals at that virtual meeting. For this public meeting, the public notice was circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. Notice was mailed out to all the landowners within 120 meters. We also had them post a sign on the property, and the notice was provided on the city's website and in the newspaper. So when I first prepared this presentation, I hadn't received any public comments. I will just note that I did receive one query earlier this morning from a person located along Clonsilla. Their main concern with this site is ensuring that there's no groundwater or surface water issues that would impact drainage from their site to the properties, which would be, I guess, downhill from this site along Clonsilla. And so I'll just skip here to the recommendation. You will note that in the recommendation, we are proposing the use of a holding symbol. And the purpose of that holding symbol is to ensure that when at the site plan stage, when we review the detailed design for stormwater, there was a hydrogeology study done for this property that it does have a fairly high groundwater table, so that means the water is near the surface, and they do need to do a little bit of cutting into the land. So what will happen is that means that they will have a bit of water they have to re-infiltrate back into the ground. So we worded that very carefully to ensure that we're looking at a net zero water balance, which just means that they're not going to cut into the water table and then have to dewater from the site and run it off-site into the city's stormwater system, which would be the catch basins like along roadways and stuff like that. And then in turn, the city would have to be required to treat it later on. So our recommendation is to use that holding symbol. And then through the detailed design, they will be able to demonstrate that they've got a solution to make sure that they're not taking water off the site. So, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Walker? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And we have two delegates for this. So Tom Caldwell, you are our first with the Kawartha Commons Co-housing. If you could please come forward, Mr. Caldwell. Caldwell, there's no D, sorry. Just hit the move button there, and if you can give us your name and address, and you have
Hello.
5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Tom Caldwell. I live at 552 Chamberlain in Town Ward in Peterborough. I'm the secretary for the board of directors for Kawartha Commons Co-housing, which is the name we use instead of that numbered corporation, which nobody wants to say a bunch of numbers. We are a group of individuals who want to live in this building. And so instead of having a developer, we are working with the architects. We are paying for all of the development to be able to live in this building that we're working on. Part of our name is co-housing. Co-housing is a way of living where what we purposefully design the building to increase social interaction amongst the people. It's big in Europe. It's starting to come into North America. It is very beneficial for seniors. What they're saying is you get about 8 years longer being able to stay at home before you have to go into a senior's residence. For multi-generational families, this social interaction provides the support, babysitters, whatever. So it is a way we would like to live where we're living in community. I should get notes so I know what I'm saying. We have a number of the people that are planning on living in this building. In the audience here, you'll see that they have little ask me about co-housing buttons on. We've been working together and socializing together as a group working on getting this development going. So our goal is to have an affordable building, an accessible building, and an energy efficient building. My ask for council that I'm up here is that we don't think we need the hold for dewatering on this rezoning, is that we agree that we will completely dewater, and that is normally part of site plan. Dewatering is there. And so we say, yes, we will completely dewater, but we would like that to be covered under site plan. The reason for us is that we are looking for funding for this. Without getting some funding, we can't make affordable units in the building, and we want to have an affordable component. Funding is very competitive, and the H might not affect our funding, but it may if we're in a close race with someone else. So we're saying, yes, we will get rid of the dewatering. We won't have dewatering there, but to be competitive for funding for this, we would like to have the H not applied on this, saying that, yes, we meet it under site plan. It's got to be done under site plan anyway. So it is something that that does get signed off on. And that was really all I wanted to say.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much, sir. You did such a great job. Okay, and we have Laura Stone with One Community Planning coming up to represent the group. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Laura Stone. I'm a planner with One Community Planning, and I am representing Kawartha Commons as their planner. So I would like to thank staff very much for the supportive report and the recommendation of approval. This project does bring a significant number of units into the community. As noted in the staff report, we do not, for one of the first times before you guys, need any relief for parking. So that is a really great thing. We're looking to develop this property with a focus on sustainability and responsible stewardship for the land. The proposed development has been tested against the policies of the 2024 provincial planning statement, and the intent of the document is being met with this application. This application also complies with the directives of the city's official plans. Significant thought and care have been taken by the property owners and their architect to integrate this new development into a mature neighborhood through thoughtful design, facade, and the retention of the mature trees on site. That was also put into the design of the building so that it complements the varying topography of the lot, using changes in elevation to step the building while also honoring and maintaining the historical natural components of this property. It is noted in the staff report, and Tom spoke to it briefly, that there's a recommendation that a hold symbol be added to the zoning until the engineering for groundwater infiltration can be sorted out. And I would respectfully ask council or the committee members to consider rezoning this property without the hold. It is mandated at site plan stage that all engineering is required to meet the criteria of the city's engineering department prior to site plan approval being deemed complete. The development cannot occur until SPA is complete and satisfies all of the departments. The hold can delay the development via return to council for the removal of the hold and then the ratification of the bylaw. And this is another block that could potentially happen for any funding that may be available. So the groundwater infiltration is very much something that is being taken into consideration currently. Our development engineers are working with the city's staff to make sure that we can meet that net zero. We cannot move forward without doing that anyway at the site plan stage. So as this application meets the intent of the provincial planning statement and the official plan, and is considered to be good planning and an important addition to the city, I would ask that council approve this application.
Okay, thank you very much. And we do have a question for you with Councillor Baldwin.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and through you, Stone, thank you for the presentation. What would be the prospective timelines to start the project and potentially finish it?
So through you, Madam Chair, basically as soon as possible. We have our documents and reports and studies pretty much ready for site plan pre-consultation to begin. We just wanted to take this step first.
Supplementary, Madam Chair, through you to Ms. Stone. Staff report indicates they'd like a holding symbol, and you're suggesting it can be brought back at site plan. I'm wondering if you've had a discussion with our planner as to why they're recommending it before getting back to site plan, and you're saying we don't need it. Just wondering if you've had that conversation.
So through you, Madam Chair, a very brief conversation. I do understand where staff is coming from with wanting the security of that piece of criteria being met with the application. However, the zoning bylaw amendment is looking at a change of land use. The site plan will get into the greater details of how the site will function. So at this stage, we are looking to rezone to permit a 6-story unit or a 6-story 35 to 54 unit building with, on-site parking, that type of thing. So we recognize that that is something that's important to the city and it's important to the engineers and it's important to us as well. But at this stage, we're just asking for the land change approval.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Burke, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Parnell, and through you to Ms. Stone. Laura, thanks for coming. This might have been a better question for Mr. Caldwell, but I heard him mention that the project is hoping to be funded through very competitive grants, which I'm aware of. We met with the group. Is there a plan to fund the development if those grants don't work out?
Through you, Madam Chair, that would be a question for Mr. Caldwell.
I'll allow you to answer that question, please.
So far, we've gone through 3 designs as different programs appear. Right now, we have 10 different financing options that we're looking at. Our ideal options are ones that allow the affordable housing and a rental model. 3 of the options are not rental models, but are owner models. But of those, 2 of them still do allow us affordable units the way that Habitat is doing the affordable units with somebody taking up. So if we can't get a grant component, we can't manage the affordable. Only if we can find either the rental or the equity model with the grant component, can we make the affordable units work?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions for Ms. Stone? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I need a mover for this. Councillor Burke, you're moving it. Did you want to speak to it?
Yeah, please, Chair Parnell. I'd like to speak to it. Councillor Riel and Mayor Leal and myself have met with Tom and his group, and that was a great meeting and appreciate it. I didn't expect you guys to be so fast in front of us, so that's great. I'd like to help support this group, get this project off the ground any way that I can. We've just heard from Tom, this wasn't orchestrated, this was a genuine question. And we've just heard from Tom that the affordable aspect of this project is heavily dependent on grants. And we heard from Tom that it would help their group be competitive for these grants if we removed the holding symbol. So I'd like to formally move that we remove the holding symbol. I'm confident that we can deal with this at the site plan. And so that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, I guess that's a separate motion that we would have to deal with. This basically an amendment. Councillor Baldwin.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Generally speaking, I'm in support of it, but I would like to ask staff, particularly Mr. Walker, there must have been a reason why the holding symbol is in your report, Mr. Walker. I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit why it's required as opposed to the amending motion that's on the floor. Thank you.
Mr. Walker, please.
Through the chair to Councillor Baldwin. In regards to the holding provision, the specific reason we are looking at including that in this instance is that the most recent submission on preparing this report, there was a little bit of groundwater that was not originally proposed to be re-infiltrated. So there was an amount of 0.41 cubic meters per second or whatever the value is. As we were preparing the report and getting ready to come back to council, I had reached out to the author of the Hydro-G study to say, are you confident that you will be able to address it at the site plan stage? About 2 days later, the response was, we've got a different design that has not been reviewed by our engineering staff to confirm that it would actually work. So we don't know if it would work for sure. It's possible it could. What it would deal with is creating like a layer kind of behind the retaining wall that would essentially be like a waterproof membrane. So there are, of course, some initial thoughts right off the bat. If that's done, number one, how much could that possibly cost them in design costs versus just taking that water that was going to come out of the ground and re-infiltrating it through perhaps what we would call more of like a standard practice. So, so we aren't 100% sure that their design is going to necessarily go the same way as it was originally proposed. So there is more level of comfort with having the holding provision.
Councillor Baldwin, you can continue.
Thanks, Madam Chair, through you, to Mr. Walker. And the technology might be there, but you're unsure whether it's going to work. Do you have any idea how long it would take to determine whether the problem that you're describing might come back to your planning staff? In other words, I'm just wondering if the application's a little bit premature, if council wanted to have some assurance that the holding system or holding symbol is required. How long, have you got an indication how long that might be to get that information back where you'd feel comfortable removing that holding system? I guess that's what I'm trying to work with Councillor Burke here, but I'm also thinking about the other neighbors in and around the area.
Mr. Walker,
Yep.
please.
Okay, thank you through the chair. So in response to that question, I had also reached out to the applicant and owner and just asked if they were sure that that's the design they want to go with. And if they once they gave me confirmation, I would send that the new information over to our engineering staff to start that assessment. It's probably going to be 1 to 2 months to get that assessment back. Given the number of other projects, we only have one engineer. So we do have to be cognizant of that as well. It is something, though, that we are confident that can or should be addressed at site plan. And realistically, with the holding provision, there is nothing stopping them from applying for, going through the site plan process, finalizing the design. And once our staff are comfortable that really they've fulfilled that condition, that we get to this, what we call a net zero, then we can basically bring the removal of hold bylaw back towards council. It's a very quick process to do a removal of hold because it doesn't have to go through a whole public process. It just comes straight to council. We just draft the bylaw. It's essentially almost like a schedule change. The bylaw goes on and, hopefully approved by council.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker.
Excellent. And you had 31 seconds left. Okay. Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Parnell. I'll just reiterate my standpoint with this. I've met with the group. Some of the people involved with this group are some of the biggest environmentalists that we have in the city, and I have really good faith in them coming to the table with something that addresses this concern. I think some of the federal housing money the applications are need to be submitted by January, so that the window is shrinking for some housing grant funding that I'm aware of, and I would be supportive of us thinking outside of the box in this case, being flexible in this case. What was presented to us is actually a really beautiful way at making some systemic change in what we have in our housing crisis. We have seniors that are living in houses that are too big for them to take care of and sustain. And the way that this model was described to me, it would sort of free up some of the bottlenecking that is happening in our housing stock. It will allow seniors to live like we've heard in community, taken care of. It will put less of a burden on the sort of situations to care for the elderly that are very costly. And by having this option in our community, it will allow people to graduate from a house that may be graduate from situations in which they may be overhoused. So for those reasons, I hadn't planned on doing this. I just heard it and I thought it was a great thing to support. And I'm going to be supporting us removing the holding symbol. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is the motion on the floor, is to remove the H symbol. Does anybody else wish to speak to that? Okay,
I do. I do.
Oh, Councillor Hakey?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, a bit of a conundrum here. I certainly understand where they're going, but I have a question. I just want to make sure I understand. If we approve this with the holding symbol, they are ineligible to apply for that grant. Is that correct?
Not my understanding. Does anybody have a definitive answer?
The
Mr.
presenter
Caldwell?
might be able to, yeah.
Yell up to Mr. Walker. Allow you to answer that question, sir.
Once we have the rezoning, we can apply for funding. We just will potentially not be as competitive. And that's it. It's just that if we're equal and we have the Holden as another one doesn't, we may not get funding. And funding is competitive.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. That certainly is a good reason. So, to our city staff, can we approve this with the holding symbol removed so that they can apply on equal grounds, with an understanding that if the engineering report comes back and it says that their design will not work, we can add the holding symbol back, add it back into the equation?
Mr. Walker, or Director Appleby, please.
Madam Chair, I would suggest, so we could approve this without the holding symbol tonight. We could work with the applicant on this issue through the site plan process. If it were determined through the site plan process that it wasn't possible to reach net zero, then the design of the building might need to tweak a little bit, or the design of the site might need to tweak a little bit, but you wouldn't see a scenario where you would then reimpose an H back on the site. The H would remain off the site, but we would work with the applicant just to ensure that they can find something that does work for the site.
Okay, thank you
ahead.
very much. This is an example, I think, of what every councillor sitting around this table has been looking for. A project that solves many problems. It not only affordable housing, it's infill, and to Mr. Appleby and that staff, I give you full marks for your comments that you just said, which is, we will find a way. And that's how we should be doing things, I believe. I do support removing the holding symbol. I do believe that the applicant and the city, if things changed, they could work collectively together to come up with a solution that would satisfy everybody. I don't want to run the risk of putting a X where there should be a check mark on an application with the government, because we all know how governments operate, and that is with checks and X's. And that's how they look at it. They wouldn't understand the local part. So I do support removing the holding symbol, and the fact that the city is willing to work, I think speaks very highly of our staff in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? I do have a comment and a question, because I grew up on Reynolds Court at the base of High Street there. And this is on High Street Hill, which is a drumlin. And even though it's a big hill, it has very high groundwater, even though it's way up there in the hill. So we do know that there is a concern, and this water must be dealt with properly. According to all of our policies, the water from this property can't go onto other people's properties. That's a big no-no. So how will we ensure that the water from this property does not negatively impact other properties, especially downhill? So I think that's why you put the H symbol on it to start with.
To you, Madam Chair, that is correct. That was the reason for the proposed H. They will need to meet with staff and prepare the necessary background reports as part of site plan to look at addressing stormwater management. So they will need to follow any provincial rules that are in place and regulations. They will also need to follow the city's engineering design guidelines. Again, I'll point out their guidelines. So that's part of the reason that staff were proposing the need for the hold, is to ensure that we, at the end of the day, have the right tool. So.
Thank you for that. So I am 100% supportive of this development, and I wish they had shovels in the ground 2 years ago. It's a great idea, but I am concerned about the groundwater because I am familiar with the area. So I'm actually in favor of leaving the hold sign on because we have heard that it's maybe just a competitive thing, but it's not necessarily a deterrent. So we will go. I'm not seeing any other hands up. We will go to a vote on the proposed amendment. Okay, and that is carried 8-2. Thank you very much. And so we're back to the main motion. Okay. Are there any comments on the main motion? Moved. Okay, so Councillor Beamer has moved the main motion. Last call for comments or questions. Seeing none, we'll go to a vote on the main motion, including the amendment. And that is carried unanimously, minus Councillor Duguay, who declared and did not speak or vote on the matter. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so yeah, it's only 9:30. So let's move on to our third item. This is a draft plan of subdivision, official plan, and zoning bylaw amendment for 689 Tower Hill. And Mr. Nolan Drum will be our speaker, our staff speaker on this one. Congratulations, Maryland people. Okay, Mr. Drum, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just trying to get this working. Usually you don't have everyone leave during the headliner. All right, I can get the full screen going, so I'll just toggle through this way. The application before you is a proposed draft plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and zoning bylaw amendment for 689 Tower Hill Road. The owner and applicant is Muskoka D&M Corporation. Agent is Kent Randall at Ecoview Consulting. The property is approximately 15 acres with 20 meters of frontage on Tower Hill Road, 24 meters of frontage onto Line Street, 23 meters of frontage on McCrae. There's an intervening property on Hillview Drive, but there will also be city-owned property on Hillview Drive. But there is the potential for access to Hillview Drive if that is dedicated as public highway. Here's the location of the subject property highlighted in its surrounding context, close to the shopping node of Chemung Road and Tower Hill Road. Extendicare just to the south, Northview Community Church to the west. Here's an oblique view of the property showing it from Google Earth. It's got Extendicare under construction. I took other than show you some street view images from the roads that you can't really see, you'll just see shrubs. I took a couple photos throughout the property. This is just indicating where I was on the site and the direction I was looking. So on the the left-hand side there, that's at the foot of DeLine Street, showing where that north-south road would go between the properties fronting on Daniel Street. Hopefully I didn't get that wrong. And Extendicare to the west. On the right there is about 3/4 of the way up towards the telecommunication tower and the city reservoir, just to give an idea of the slope of the property for whoever hasn't been on the site. And here's a couple properties kind of from the lower crest, kind of where the northerly 3 buildings would be. This probably could have been a panorama, but just kind of giving you the view down the hill with some landmarks in the horizon that are clearly visible from on that lower crest of the hill before you work your way up. So the proposal is a draft plan of subdivision. So this would create 2 new public streets and 2 blocks. Block 1 would be a stormwater management pond. Block 2 would be used for multi-unit residential development. Street A would be a north-south link between DeLine Street and Hillview Drive. Street B would be an east-west link that would connect McCrae Drive to Street A. Just a visualization there. It's a little hard to see, but it's also in your package. Block 1 is on the south side of the east-west street, and the development block is to the north. There's a small component to the far northwest with the frontage on Tower Hill Road. That's other lands owned by the applicant, so they're not subject to this application. The proposal also includes an official plan amendment to really formalize the collector road network in the area south of Tower Hill Road between Fairburn Street and Chemong Road. It was identified in the Transportation Master Plan, which was approved by Council, I want to say 2021, and implemented in the official plan that there were proposed collector roads in this area. So this is really establishing that road network that our engineering staff and council can move forward with on a capital funding basis. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would rezone the property from the current D296, which is basically a holding zone. Nothing can happen until an amendment is processed. The proposal would rezone Block 1 as OS2, an open space district to facilitate the stormwater management pond. Block 2, which is the multi-unit residential block, is proposed to be an R6 with site-specific exemptions to facilitate the development. Here's a conceptual plan of the proposal. 6 buildings kind of terraced up the hill with a amenity building on kind of the lower portion on the west-hand side. This is a side view, side profile of the buildings. So you're looking generally at 1 level of underground parking, 1 level of at-grade parking, and 6 levels of residential above. This is a concept plan kind of looking towards the northeast, towards, I guess, the end of McCrae Drive on the property. So you see the amenity building, 2-story amenity building with a pool, and then the residential development towards the northwest. The application was reviewed in the context of the provincial planning statement, the city's official plan, the strategic plan, and the municipal housing pledge. There was a public open house at Northminster United Church in July 2024. It was well attended by neighboring residents. The concerns that we heard at that open house were summarized in the report. Public notice was circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, but we also provided notice to residents that lived in Simon's subdivision, McCrae, Hillview, Hillside, that were beyond the 120 meters, just to ensure that everyone in that area, the impact's a little bit wider, that we made sure that they were aware. And there was public notice signage. You know, this is the first cycle that we've tried signage. It seemed to work pretty well. The applicant posted signage on all 4 access points to the property. Now, I prepared this presentation yesterday, so I didn't include all the concerns about traffic on Simons Avenue that were received this morning, although I do, that was addressed in the report. But there were several individuals that have been in contact with me over the course of the public notice period and throughout the whole process. They're generally not really neither for or against, but looking for information. When's certain phasing going to be done? When's my road going to be approved? Am I going to get servicing? Things like that. So it's the recommendation of staff that the draft plan of subdivision is approved, subject to the conditions of draft plan approval. Those were included in your package. It's recommended that the official plan be amended to establish the collector road network south of Tower Hill Road between Fairburn and Chemong Road. You can see on the drawing there that really the only Hillview, Simons, DeLine, the north-south road are already identified as future collector roads. The only new location really is that McCrae. It was initially thought that it would cut through the Northview Church property and connect with Northcott into the Lily Lake subdivision. And it's recommended that the property be rezoned from D296 to Block 1 being the OS2 district to facilitate that stormwater management pond. And that Block 2 is rezoned to R6 375H with the holding symbol to be removed at such time that site plan is granted for all or a portion of the subject lands. So with that, I'll take any questions of clarification.
Thank you very much. I do have Councillor Beamer and then Councillor Riel. Councillor Beamer, you have the floor.
Strum, thank you. Mr. Strum, on page 65, it talked about McCrae and Hillview being upgraded over time. Didn't mention anything about Simon subdivision. I just wonder, is that in the plan? That'll see some increased traffic. Any plan to upgrade Simon subdivision to city standards?
Through the chair, the report spoke to Hillview and McCrae because there's operational issues with intersections primarily, although they will need to be upgraded to collector standards. Simons Avenue is identified in the most recent development charge study as to be constructed to an urban standard. I don't know, maybe if I can look to Commissioner Nelson to provide more detail on that.
Commissioner, please.
Through the chair, it would be anticipated because Simons does have some operational issues, more so just in conditional issues and the current condition of the road. So from that is part of the outcome of possibly this and this development moving forward. It's anticipated that it would be considered for a future upgrade, yes.
Fantastic. Thank you, Commissioner. And Mr. Drum, just with servicing on McCrae and Hillview, much like Martin with the Extendicare, will there be an opportunity with the development for those property owners to tap into water and sewer on McCrae and Hillview?
Through the chair, we don't have details on that yet, but I would assume that we would do something similar in which if services are being extended down the street, we would give adjacent property owners the opportunity to tie into that.
Great. And that was the same answer with the Extendicare. Once they got more information, they sent it to the residents, and residents, as we speak, are tying in. So if that's something we could take advantage with for those residents who are looking forward to city services. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Beamer. Councillor Riel.
Chair, my question's been asked and answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Burke.
Chair Parnell, thank you, Mr. Drum. What's the history of this site? Is it just this weird pocket that was not developed as development happened around on Chemong, and it's just below the TV tower? What's the history of the site?
Well, if you could spare me a moment to be a little glib, if you spent your high school days in Peterborough, you might be familiar with this site. But really, it's
Why am I?
through the chair. It's a challenging site to develop. It's the side of the hill. There's no services. Road connectivity isn't that great. So I think, sorry, I think we just got to the point where maybe the economics caught up to the ability to develop the site.
And I'll just say it now because I was going to say it to Mr. Randall. I think I was shocked when I saw the design. Like you guys, I was reading the report and I'm like, I know that site. Trust me. And I was like, how are you going to develop that site? This is crazy. And then it's like, oh, here. So thank you.
But the top of the ridge won't be developed.
Oh, goodness. All righty, Councillor Duguay.
Inquiring minds need to know. Mr. Drum, thank you for your comments. Following up to Councillor Beamer's inquiry, Simon subdivision, I believe that subdivision is without municipal services, correct?
Through the chair, I believe there are services on Martin Road now that sanitary was extended to sanitary only, since that was extended through to extended care, but the rest of the subdivision is unserviced.
So if there's contemplation for the subdivision and road upgrades, would the installation provision of services be a general taxpayer expense, or would it be at the expense of the property owners within that subdivision?
Through the chair, I may look to people behind me to answer that question. I'm not familiar with budgeting processes.
Commissioner Nelson?
Through the chair, the services, my understanding of the process, the services along Simons would not be needed for the development, but if we were reconstructing, we would look at putting the services in at the same time.
Thank you. The reason I'm inquiring is I considered the aerial context. These are large properties that are relying on private services. While it's unrelated to this site, just as a general commentary, if we're contemplating services and improvements, we could look, for example, to Spilsbury Avenue, which years ago had similar 10,000 square foot lots. When the city improved the road, we created a number of infill lots, and if I recall, there's been no road patches ever, so it worked. So there's a model. I'd like to, Mr. Drum, draw your attention though to your bylaw. There's a term in your bylaw, draft bylaw. Excuse me. Yes, on page 81 of the report, it speaks to regulation. It's the bylaw exception number 375, regulation F, and it talks about minimum shared amenity space. Will that be a term that warrants definition in the bylaw? Because I read the bylaw, I couldn't find it. I can't find it as a definition attached to this. Should we be defining what is meant by shared amenity space?
Mr. Drum, please.
Through the chair to Councillor Duguay, we did have that discussion internally as we drafted this bylaw. We felt that it's going to be addressed through the CPP bylaw, which should be shortcoming, or forthcoming shortly. So we didn't feel like we needed to do it now. So we didn't include a definition at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll have other comments later following the deputations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other hands up now. Thank you, Mr. Drum. And we'll go to our registered delegations. We do have 5. Chris Roberts, you're up first, please. You could please come forward, sir. And you may not have been here earlier. I do need you please to state your name and address for the official record, and you have 5 minutes. I'll do my best to let you know when you have a minute left without horribly interrupting you.
Is that better? Okay, I put together a petition and went around my neighborhood in the Simons Avenue area. And this is what it said. It was a petition to council to address the issue of utilizing Simons Avenue as a main roadway leading to the newly built Extendicare, the 6 new apartment buildings, and the newly acquired property for Mason Homes buildings yet to be determined. We are in agreement that this subdivision and the roads were not designed for this amount of additional traffic of heavy equipment, construction trucks, and all related vehicles for another possible 15 or more years. We are in fear of the safety hazards that this will pose to our community, mostly compromise of senior citizens. We're also concerned for the environmental impact this throughway traffic, as well as the diminished home values. We're asking council to approve the other available alternate routes that would not endanger the safety and well-being of our peaceful community. I have 58 signatures from our neighborhood on this petition. I will submit that if needed. Furthermore, I'm sorry, I didn't acknowledge everybody tonight. Thank you for having me, council, mayor. So this is my own kind of take on it here now. It took me a long time to do this petition. Not a long time to do it, but a long time to talk to all the individual peoples in our area. It wasn't just a 2-minute in and out the door sort of thing. It was like a 15 to 20 minutes to up to an hour discussion with the other people in my area. It took me a long time to do that. Not that that matters. So I've come up to my own kind of put together, okay, my concerns of our household, myself, my wife. And so this is what I got here. Okay, so I'm here this evening to express the Simons Avenue neighborhood top 3 concerns for me. First, safety of the residents and the pedestrians. Walking, bicycling, exercising daily on the Simons Avenue roadway with no sidewalks, no street lighting, broken and severely deteriorated road surface, and no adjusted speed limitations. That's what it is. We've dealt with the construction traffic. We've dealt with it for 3 years. And Simons Avenue, the road is deplorable. There's only one short section that hasn't been repaved in the whole subdivision. I don't know what we're waiting for. The construction traffic is almost done. Almost done. And when I say almost done, there's still heavy equipment going up and down that road regularly. And I'm saying like 6 o'clock in the morning, tractor trailers with equipment on it, bangity bang, 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 bang down our road, 6 o'clock in the morning. I know that there's a noise bylaw thing in the city. We haven't really gone on to try to make that help our situation. However, furthermore, add the significant vehicle traffic. Sorry, I lost my page here. Furthermore, add the significant other vehicle traffic increase count from Extendicare and now the proposed development. That's a lot.
1
More
minute.
construction traffic over approximately up to 15 years. Where's that construction traffic going to go to the new development? It's going down Simons Avenue, I'm quite sure, and up the new road that we're going to build just to get to that facility. Second, safety. Again, safety. Safety of our drinking water from our wells. And this area relies on a good source of water for the wells in all that area. And there's a really shallow groundwater table in that area, which is more vulnerable for contamination. Contamination from other equipment, heavy equipment, more traffic, more brake dust, more whatever. That is going to go down into the water table. It's going to wash out. There's going to be more salt and sand on the road to accommodate the heavier traffic, more traffic every day, more traffic.
And if you could wrap up, please, sir.
That's
Your
my
5
take.
minutes is up. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Can I summarize? I have one more sentence. Third, safety. Again, potential failure at the Chemong and Simons Road Avenue intersection. It's very, very congested there. So I'm asking for this council to support reevaluation of Simons Avenue as a throughway traffic solution for this proposed residential development, and find other alternate traffic routes and construction traffic routes, some of which have been already identified in the transportation studies of the area.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much for being here this evening,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Greg Moser is our next registered delegate. If you could please come forward, Greg. Is he here? No, there's nobody. Okay. And our third delegate has pulled out. And so we do have Kent Randall from EcoView Consulting Services. Please, if you could come forward, Kent. And you know the drill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, everyone. Kent Randall, EcoView Consulting, 416 Chambers Street. So, Councillor Burke, I may have seen you maybe out, although it was dark. I did grow up at Fairbairn and Lily Lake Road, so I used to walk through this, trespass. Now, never thought it was trespassing, but that's what it was, on my way to Highland Heights. I do know the property very well. It is very steep, but as was shown on that design, MDM and I should say also I'm the agent for the applicant MDM, and Tom Binzik is with me here, and he's going to speak after if you do have any other questions that I can't answer. The design really considers the hill. It's a great design. It sort of features a switchback driveway, and the apartment building's built into the side of the hill with the parking underneath. So they've done a great job, and the architects have done a wonderful job sort of integrating the topography. This is a long-term development. I think it was noted by the last delegate of the 15 years, and we had an open house, and we spoke to a lot of folks that, of course, are upset with the condition of the roads in the area, understandably. Knowing the area, I think to Councillor Burke's question about how this sort of was never, this hole that was never filled. Simon subdivision used to be in Smith Township, those who know. Hillside in that area to the west was in the city of Peterborough. And I think there was always a plan to have Hillside connect. That's why Hillside was called Hillside. Then Simon subdivision is now called the Line Street, because it will never connect. That was part of the extended care plan. But that's why you get this sort of mishmash of holdover rural residential subdivisions with urban subdivisions. You're on the fringe of the city, you're in a greenfield area, and it's slowly going to be urbanized. So it is going to happen. Servicing is coming out. This is part of that plan. It's a long-term plan with both sewer and water, and roads. And that's part of when you do develop in greenfield areas, particularly in areas that have been annexed and were in rural areas before. As was pointed out in Mr. Drum's presentation, it's a medium to high residential use, density residential use. In a greenfield area, that's pretty significant. Typically, I can't really tell you if there have been any greenfield developments within the city of Peterborough up until now that are exclusively of that density. Typically, you will see like Lily Lake subdivision, a majority being single detached. So this is it's a good project in terms of providing that density in an area that will create a new node within the city. You obviously have all the services that you need on Chemong Road, which is really good. So it provides that sort of added complete community element that's key. In terms of the sort of the phases of development, I had mentioned the 10 to 15 years. The first phase would be to construct the first building, which is closest to the road that will be extended past Extendicare. That won't require a connection to Hillview. There will be an emergency connection there, but it won't be a vehicular connection at this point. Once the development starts building out, when you get to phase 2 and a condominium road will be constructed, that's when you'll see the necessary upgrades required for Hillview and the connection to create a collector road. So just in closing, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. This is a good project. It's a good development for this particular property within a greenfield. It's what the city's official plan calls for. And it's filling out that area in a way that will sort of respect the progression of development that'll take place over the years within that area of the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I call for questions, though, we do need to extend the hour. Councillor Duguay, so moved. No, extend the hour to complete the business on the agenda. Okay. And that is carried unanimous. And Councillor Duguay has some questions for you.
Mr. Randall, thank you for your delegation. I'm looking at the concept plan. You spoke about the phasing. So building A, sir, is that? No.
Yeah, I was going to say through the chair, if we could get that plan back up there, if that's possible. Did I? Yeah. So, let's see. You have it in here, Nolan? Oh, right here. There we go. Okay, well, can you see that okay, Councilor?
Certainly, and I'm also considering my screen, so I'll describe it in the south and east corner, building A, which is closest to the clubhouse. Is that proposed to be the first building?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you. I have one additional question. I'm looking at, the connectivity, and, getting to certain amenities, it looks like you have footpaths around, but they don't all necessarily. There'll be a sort of a critical view of like how these all can connect, because to get from, for example, building F to building A is really a long. It's a long walk, and perhaps there might be some consideration for creating some more direct routes, particularly to the amenity space. Third and final question, Mr. Randall, there's irregular shaped parcels on the concept plan. They're referred to as, I'm not sure what they are. There's about 5 or 6 of them in and around the clubhouse or building 8. What do those represent?
Through the chair, I'm not sure which ones you're looking at, Councilor.
So just below building A, the parking area, there's almost a rectangular shape, and there's one below the clubhouse. There's one by the pool. I'm not sure what those represent.
Through the chair, I believe those are stormwater facilities or retention areas. You can see there's, I'm not sure what they are.
I can
exactly. Is that correct? Yeah, I believe that they are, because you can see here, Councilor Duguay, that's the main retention pond that'll be owned by the city. And then these other ones are sort of smaller detention ponds throughout the site that will be required for stormwater attenuation.
Thank you, sir. Perhaps then I would to staff, the larger stormwater pond, perhaps to Commissioner Nelson. Would that be designed so that there would be an ability of a walk path around it? It looks to be a large enough parcel of land. It could be walkable.
Commissioner Nelson?
Through the chair, we would look at amenities, but that would be part of the design process to look at those possibilities.
Thank you, sir. That would be welcome. Mr. Randall, those are extended my questions.
Thank you. Councillor Crawley?
Through you, Chair. Hey, Kent. You mentioned that this is going to be a long-term build. So as the phases get developed, is the land going to be further divided, or are all of the buildings going to be on one lot?
So through the chair, it's a good question. So the way that the subdivision works here is that there's, as was pointed out by Mr. Drum, there's basically, well, not basically, there are three blocks or four blocks, I believe. So there's one here for a road, there's one here for a road, there's one here for the stormwater management pond. And then the development itself is taking place, or the buildings themselves are going to be on one single block. The idea is that as the development progresses, part lot control exemption could be used to further subdivide that block for each apartment building. So each apartment building could be owned and operated by a single entity. And then the road itself could become a common element condominium block that would be utilized by those parcels of tied land. So those blocks that would be subdivided through part lot control exemption.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Parnell. Through you to Mr. Randall. Kent, thank you. I'm thinking of a couple things. The first thing is that some sort of chitter chatter conjecture around other developments in the area in those other sort of big footprints that we have. Are we missing out on when we're talking about creating new roads and stuff? Is there any synergy that we're missing out on potentially with maybe other developments happening in a way that it is all sort of like wound around and dead ends, where we could just have a more congruent system for the entire site?
Well, through the chair, I guess that my answer to that would be that I guess the city's transportation plan is to call for a collector road through this area. So we've honored that at the city's request. We've tried, and I can tell you, we've worked on this for about 5 years, and a lot of it has to do with the road connections. It's a tricky site for how to connect everything and where to dead end things. Initially, our plan was to not have Hillview connect at all. City wants that to happen as part of their plan for the collector road that would go through that area. So we've obliged that request. So I think that after all this time, and traffic engineers who know more about this than I do have told us that this is sort of the best way to go. I know that there's talk about development to the north of there, and what will happen to the west, the Northview site and that sort of thing. But in terms of providing that connection, this does provide the best connection through this site.
Thanks. And through the chair, I know you have a lot of experience dealing with neighborhoods where these projects are being done. And I'm thinking about the comments from Mr. Moser and what he said to us just a second ago. Did the applicant sort of take those comments that he must have heard in other public settings around the impact? Did the applicant take that to heart? And is there any plan to sort of be amenable to what the people in the neighborhood are facing with the onslaught of construction vehicles and things like that?
Through the chair, yes, I would say that we have. I've answered quite a few questions through email. We had an open house, as I said, and it was pretty well attended, and I was a popular guy there. I should point, I did not respond to those comments, so I'll try to respond to what the gentleman said. And firstly, with the drinking water, that is something that has come up, and it came up with extended. Our firm worked on the extended care site as well. I was involved with an OLT hearing with that site, and groundwater is a concern. We're dealing with septic systems, as the delegate pointed out, septic systems and wells. Groundwater monitoring is a condition of draft plan approval. It was a condition of the extended care site. And what that essentially means is that anybody who wants to sign up for the monitoring program can. It's purely voluntary, but if any of the residents that are affected, if they wish to sign up for the monitoring, they can. And that just simply monitors like a baseline before construction, monitors during construction, and post-construction. Now, these buildings aren't utilizing groundwater. It's municipal servicing, and there's not much excavation in terms of going down into that groundwater table, but it will have to, there will be some interference, I'm sure, in certain spaces, but the idea is to not have any negative impacts, and that's done through closely monitoring the groundwater. And then in terms of the traffic, I think it was spoken to in terms of the roads. And I know that the roads are a concern, and that was the biggest thing that we heard. We didn't necessarily hear a lot of, we don't want this to happen at all. I think as Mr. Drum said, it was about the roads, and understandably, the roads are not in good shape. We're hopeful that with this development, that the first phase that will help pay for some of those improvements. It's entirely up to your staff and to you as well in terms of how you allocate those monies and when they come in, and in terms of the phasing or the priority for which roads get upgraded. But that's certainly something that we will contribute, or our clients will contribute as they develop the site.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Rial, please, for your first 5.
Through the chair, I specifically don't have a question about development. Mr. Randall, I'd like to know what you and Councillor Burke and Mr. Dunn or Drum were doing up on that hill.
You don't have to answer that. That is not germane. Sorry.
Through the chair. Well, you can ask me after, Councillor Rial. Just give me a call. I might tell you a little
Okay.
bit.
Any further questions for Mr. Randall? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, and our final delegation on this, Tom Bisnick from MDM Developments. You could come forward, please. Do you like Thomas or Tom?
Tom is just fine.
Tom.
Thank you.
Welcome, Tom, and we officially need your name and address for the record.
Okay, you were close with my last name. It's Tom Binzik. I'm at 27 Parkway Avenue in Toronto. I work for MDM Developments. Thanks for hearing Kent give his spiel. Basically, I don't have much to add to what he said. I'm just here if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them best I could, or refer back to Kent, or send an email tomorrow once I talk to any of our engineers.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Rial has a question for you.
Through the chair, Mr. Binzik, and thank you very much for being here. My question is there any affordable units in this build, or is it all market rent?
It's a good question. Right now, because we are just going for zoning, it is a very conceptual level. We haven't committed to anything yet. What I will tell you about MDM, we've got a proven track record of providing affordable units. We've got a building in Barrie that occupied in 2021, I believe, 93 units. A third of those were affordable. We're currently under construction in Lindsay, downtown Lindsay, 110 unit building. Again, a third of those units are affordable. Both programs are with CMHC. So I can't commit to anything right now, but I would not be surprised if we work with CMHC in some capacity on this property.
To the chair, we can keep our fingers crossed that hopefully the same thing will happen with this development here. So thank you very much for.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, I need a mover for the motion. Councillor Crawley. Okay, did you want to speak to it? No? Any speakers to the recommendations? Councillor Beamer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few comments. Do appreciate the residents from Simons being here tonight. I think I see some residents from McCrae and Hillview as well. Madam Chair, just a few comments. It's really around the roads and the servicing. Like the speakers, I've had constituents reach out to me, and they're not so much against the development. They understand there's going to be development in that area. It's more around the awful roads and the need for servicing. Madam Chair, you'll remember, and Councillor Reel will remember, in 2011, there was a consequential vote. It was February 2011, because it was you, me, and Keith, our first planning committee meeting as newly elected officials. And the application was a Raymond Street development, if you remember. And one of the recommendations was opening up the street, Simon subdivision, into Raymond. And the residents, understandably so, were opposed to that. And Councillor Hall and I, being good councillors, represented the residents and voted against opening it up. And we won 6-5. However, just to show you that there are votes I regret, I sort of regret that vote, because if we would have opened it up, the next year would have been a brand new Simon subdivision, city sidewalks, curbs, street lights, and servicing down the whole road. Now, it would have meant traffic, but it would have been a brand new urbanized street. We opposed it, it lost, and 15 years later, we still have the same rural street that we did in 2011. Number two, the Extendicare came along. We supported the Extendicare, and what happened? There was some urbanization. Every street in Simons subdivision, except Simons Avenue for the construction, got a brand new road. Martin Street residents are tying into services. So when there's urbanization in the area, there are roads and services that come along. It takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight, but it just goes to show you when there's growth and urbanization in the area, there's opportunities for new roads and services. Madam Chair, that's what I'm hearing from most of the residents is they understand urbanization will be an opportunity for new roads for McCrae, new roads for Simons Avenue, which is desperately overdue, new roads for Hillview. And as the report says, and as the commissioner indicated, I think they will be prioritized when there's more growth in the area, more traffic on those terrible roads. There are more safety issues. They are going to be prioritized versus if there was no additional traffic or no urbanization. So, Madam Chair, I will be certainly championing this to make sure those roads are urbanized for safety reasons. And also this will be an opportunity for services in those areas for McCrae and Hillview. Again, most of the residents are contacting me, not so much against the development, but their questions are when we can expect roads, sidewalks, curbs, and tie into city services. And it's more likely you can do that quicker when there's development and urbanization within the area. So those are my comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. So we'll go to a vote. Seeing no further hands. Oh, do you want to speak? Sorry. Okay, Councillor Duguay does want to speak.
I did have my hand earlier, but I know it's a busy hour. One thing I wanted to specifically speak to Councillor Beamer's comments, I agree. This is an area of the community that has a bunch of unfinished, disconnected roads or unconnected roads. And this development, together with extended care, will give rise to improvements and an urbanization of the area. So I concur with that. But one thing that really fascinates me, I think it was Mr. Randall who said, this is the first greenfield site in our city in a long time that's comprised of all and only multiple unit housing. This is the very type and form of development that our official plan is seeking. And I know it will represent change to the neighborhood, but it is a large parcel of land. Staff are recommending it can work, and Councillor, you might agree, it's going to give rise to improvements in the area and longer to. So I just wanted to offer that commentary. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so it's been moved by Councillor Crowley, and we'll go to a vote.
Madam Chair, I'm not voting on it.
Oh,
I-
yes,
I
yes,
decline.
Councillor, yes, that is noted. Thank you, Councillor Hickey, for the reminder. And you
Thank you.
did not, yes. And that is carried 10-0, noting that Councillor Hickey did not participate in the discussion or the vote on that item. Thank you very much. And with that, I will hand it back to Chair Beamer.
All right, we'll take a break, 5-minute break, and then we'll reconvene and finish this off by 11. Thank you.
should get through this, eh? Hopefully. I don't get it. I don't think we're 55.
I don't have a card on me, but I can write down my stuff. I appreciate it.
Great, 30 seconds. All right, colleagues, thank you. So we're making good time. So we have some important issues, but let's see if we can set a goal of 11:20. I'm sure we can do that. So 13A, correspondence from Peterborough Police Services Board, Councillor Reel.
Through the chair, I would like to make a motion, if I could, and that motion is that City Council direct the Peterborough Police Service Board to revise its 2026 budget submission to council by reducing the proposed increase of 9.92% to 7%, and that the revised submission be returned to council for consideration within the statutory timelines. I would like to speak to that, and I have a copy of that. If you would like that.
Okay. And it is in order because Councillor Reel made it last meeting, but it was in the same cycle. So it hasn't been approved or not approved at a council meeting, same cycle. So Councillor Reel, you have the floor.
I find it quite puzzling with what happened last week when City Council asked the Peterborough Police Board to relook at their budget as it relates to the city budget. I watched on Global News, they held a 20-minute virtual meeting and basically gave the City Council, taxpayers of the city of Peterborough, the proverbial middle finger. This is my comments, and stuck with the original ask of 9.92%. I, along with all city councils, sit on boards and committees. I am on these committees by virtue of me being a city councillor and not a provincial delegate appointee, but because I was elected to city council. Why is it that I am being asked to sharpen my pencil on the boards that I sit on and not the police board? Examples, Fairhaven. I sit on this board and is legislated by the Long-Term Care Act of Ontario. They come in at 3%. Orca, I do not sit on that board, but they are provincially mandated. They come in at 3%. Lakeland Public Health, I sit on this board and also on the Stewardship Committee, which is the budget committee for the board under the plea, and they're under the Public Health Act. We are obligated to provide them with funding to run their business. Their ask was 20.75%. They came in at 5%. The point I'm trying to make here is that I have a fiduciary duty to the board, but my overall fiduciary duty is by virtue of me being elected to city council to the taxpayers of the city of Peterborough. My ask for the police board to reduce their ask at 9.92% to 7% does not in any way demean their fiduciary duty to provide adequate policing. You will hear the Community Safety Act or the Police Act bannered about. But if you read the act, the police service have until 2027 to comply. 2 years to get this done, not just yesterday or tomorrow or today. The police board was asked for 10 new hires to have and we need to have a sober second thought for what you need, not what you want. They asked for 1 new police constable. They just hired 5. 1 detective constable, correct me if I'm wrong, the promotion is within the ranks, going from a constable to a detective constable. A financial analyst. The city has a financial department. They can help out here. I sit on a board with the manager of finance for the police board. Lovely woman, hardworking, but we have a finance department that could actually ask and help out here. 1 police recruiter coordinator for the department of 300 people. Excuse me, but we have an HR department that could actually help out here. The question for me is, if they just hired 5 new constables, who did the recruiting? Somebody must have been seconded or done the jurors doing the job now. So why do you need a recruiter for this? An IT system analyst. We have someone that has been there that's been seconded from the IT department for over 5 or 6 years. You're telling me that they don't know their job or don't know the police act or what they're doing in the police? I'm sorry. I don't believe that. They've been there for over 6 years. I could go on, but I, like other councillors that we sit on board, then we have to scrutinize here. Again, my fiduciary duty is the people that elected me to the taxpayers of the city of Peterborough.
Councillor, do you want your second 5 minutes?
Yes, please support me in sending this budget back to the police board to find the needed efficiencies to meet the needs, but also the taxpayers of the city of Peterborough. The original police budget asked for 9.98%, equated to $3.7 million. The cap that I'm asking at 7% is a savings of 1.05 million, which would bring the tax rate down to about 6%. Rationale: bring increases closer to inflation in other city departments, always phasing in the new hires and initiate over multiple years, and maintain core operating while reinforcing fiscal discipline. That's why I'm sending this back. I have a fiduciary duty to the boards I sit on. I think I do a good job of it, and I have done my duty and brought those back well under the ask of what's happening here. Why can't the police board do the same thing? I think if you look at what we've done since 2022, there's been 59 hires. We have done our bit for this police force. We also have supplied $91 million to a new police station that's being built. We have done our duty to the police. I think that they need to do a little bit and sharpen their pencil and come back to us and say, hey, look, we're listening to you. I think you make sense, and come back here at the 7% that we're asking here and give a break to the taxpayers of the city of Peterborough.
Thank you very much, Councillor Reel. So speaking to the amendment, I have Councillor Burke.
Oh, sorry. No, I'll go on the list after the result of the amendment.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Apologies. Any further speakers to that amendment? Okay. Moved by Councillor Reel. We'll take a vote. And that is lost. Okay, back to the main motion. Speaking to the main motion, Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. I have a motion that I'd like to move, please. I've submitted it to the clerks and I'll read that and then I'll speak to it if that's okay. So the motion is that council return the 2026 police budget to the Police Services Board and request that the board not resubmit the budget unless it includes demonstrated reductions to the overall increase and clear explanation of where those savings have been found.
Okay, we'll just get that on the screen if possible. And Councillor Burke, you have the floor.
Yeah, so this is just, I'm going to reiterate and echo what the previous speaker has said. I guess it's clear that this room is not willing to put the budget back to the police at 7% because this is the second time we've tried. It's been a 6-5 vote each time. I think that says a lot. So what I'm presenting here is a softer approach again, where, you know, I thought that this would have been accomplished by just sending the budget back, but we all know how that went. So this is asking to send the budget back and have them come back with some savings. I want to acknowledge the correspondence from the Police Services Board contained in this report, as well as their letter dated November 21st, 2025. I'll be blunt, I'm disappointed, and I think the public is too. Council sent the police budget back for potential reductions because the status quo is not sustainable. The board convened for a virtual 20-minute special meeting and returned the exact same budget request, unchanged, after what they described as a 6-month internal process. That is not reading the room, that is not listening to the public, and that is not acknowledging how these votes are going down. Our community is facing a serious affordability pressure, a historic tax levy, and extremely tough choices across every other service. A 9.22% increase, the largest from any major city service, deserves more than a 20-minute meeting and a form letter that simply restates the board's original position. And the truth is, municipalities across Ontario are having this exact conversation. Toronto, Ottawa, Hamilton, Waterloo Region, Calgary. I've submitted something to the clerks that goes into what these municipalities have done in further detail, if we could see that. So you'll see this shortly, but all of these municipalities that I've mentioned have asked their police services to specifically come back with reductions, efficiencies, or multiple budget scenarios that align with broader affordability goals. In some cases, council sent the police budget back more than once, which is what I am proposing to do tonight. This is not unusual, this is not punitive, and this is not anti-police. It is simply responsible financial oversight in a very difficult economic moment. Council asked the board to look for potential reductions. What we received instead was an outright refusal to reconsider any portion of the ask. That does not demonstrate partnership, transparency, or responsiveness to the public mood. We need a better process, and frankly, we need a better attempt from the police to genuinely find savings. So I'm making this motion tonight. I'm asking for your support. And I'm asking the board to come back to the table with an earnest demonstration of good faith, something that shows they understand the moment we're in and willing to work with the council and the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burke. Any further speakers to the amendment? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. And that is lost. Okay, back to the main motion. Just have a mover and then we'll move by Councillor DeGay. Comments or questions? We'll take a vote. And that is carried. All right, 13C, September 30th, 2025 financial report. Councillor Burke.
Yeah, I'll try to whiz through my questions, Chair Beamer. To Mr. Freeman, corporate other is showing a $10.6 million over expenditures and 159% spent. What projects are driving this overage?
Mr. Chairman, that's the ice storm.
Thank you. I see that we have 6 budget transfers here under delegated authority this quarter. Are these transfers signaling projects that are under scoped, or do we just have budget issues?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if I would actually characterize it as either of those things. There may be a scope issue or an under budget issue, but I think invariably there are items that arise, situations that arise that require monies to be spent that were unforeseen. So I think it could be all of those. Mr. Chairman, and we try to provide in the chart a short explanation that gives rise to why, in fact, the treasurer has made that approval for your review, and so I think that the explanation speaks for itself. But
thank you. In the section about operating revenue, we have a parking revenue that is projected to fall $300,000 below budget. And then staff are quoted in the report as saying that, quote, there is a lower demand for on-street parking downtown, end quote. First of all, I'm not finding that is the case from people that are downtown. I feel that there is a demand for parking. And secondly, how many sort of reports are we going to see on the lack of revenue at our parking garages until we hear from staff with a solution?
Through the chair, we are in the throes of, we've started the parking strategy, downtown parking strategy, and the review, and also the on-street parking permit system. So it's anticipated that as we get into 2026, there will be a report coming forward that looks at some of that. And again, the deficit is, we're optimistic that the deficit's actually decreasing, not increasing, thankfully, but at the same time, hoping that and basically understanding that there will be some commentary that will come part of those reports and studies.
Yeah, those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Burke. Are you comfortable moving it? Moved by Councillor Burke. Any comments or questions? We'll take a vote. And that is carried. All right, our first of 4 designations, 13D, 390, 392 George Street North. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. All I wanted to do with this was that they not pass on consent. I'd like to have each of them voted on separately, please.
Okay, we can do that. So moved by Councillor.
I'll move them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. So moved by Councillor Hickey, 390, 392. We'll take a vote. And that is carried. 13E, designation of 394 George Street, moved by Councillor Hickey. We'll take a vote. Jeez. That is carried. 13F, 368 George Street North and 14042 Simcoe, moved by Councillor Hickey. We'll take a vote. That carries. The last one, 13G 387 George Street South, moved by Councillor Hickey. Councillor Duguay.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. I believe all of council would have received a letter of objection from the owners of the property, Vanessa Oak Hogan and Ainsley Hogan. I certainly recall when Carl Oak owned this building that he was hesitant to have the building designated. I'm also aware they've spent considerable monies retrofitting the interior as well as some recent window replacements in addition to the rear of the building. Given that we have an objection and moreover that we have a firm commitment of a local business to stay in this building and exist, I cannot support the designation.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Duguay. Any further comments or questions? Councillor
Mr.
Lachika?
Chair,
I'll go, Councillor Hickey, I'll go to Councillor Lachika, then I'll come to you.
thank
Councillor
you.
Lachika?
Thank you very much, through you, Chair Beamer. Appreciative of the previous speaker's comments. However, I do want to just to speak to the Heritage Act and that we are not obstructed because of the Heritage Act to making a decision on the basis of the public and on the merits of the heritage analysis, that it be brought forward and that the owner would have the opportunity to speak to it should an intention to designate be decided by council. So for that reason, I will be supporting what PACAC has come forward with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Lachika. Councillor Hickey?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I inadvertently overlooked this one earlier because I'm going to declare an interest as the owner of this building is the person that we just sold our company to. So I will declare on this.
Councillor Hickey will declare. So Councillor Hickey can't move it. So moved by Councillor Lachika. Are you comfortable moving it? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Lachika. Councillor Hickey declares the pecuniary. Any further comments or questions? Let's take a vote. And that is lost. All right, our last item on consent, OPHI allocation Abbeyfield, Councillor Burke.
Try to be quick, Chair Beamer. Thank you through you to Commissioner Laidman. So as a service manager, how do we assess whether investing OFI dollars in county projects in doing so meaningfully reduces pressures on the city's affordable housing and homelessness systems, given that county residents rely on city services?
Through you, Chair Beamer, I'm actually not sure that's part of our metric for determining what to recommend to council as to where those funds go. Those are provincial dollars. We are obligated as a service manager to properly fund housing throughout the region, both the county and the city, and it's important for us to be equitable. And however, certainly there's a recognition that anyone can apply for those units and be eligible if you're a city resident or a county resident, so they would be available. However, we're just staff are trying to ensure that the funding does get equitably applied throughout the region.
Thank you. I have a few more questions, but I think in the week until our next meeting, I'll try to connect with you and ask you those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burke. Moved by Councillor Burke. We'll take a vote. And that is carried. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good job. So we have a notice of motion this evening. Notice of motion, Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. Do I have to read the motion out?
No, it's in public, so you can
Great.
just
Thank
speak
you.
to it if you like.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I want to begin this in a way by remembering a friend of mine who many of us knew, and that is Anne Farquharson. I attended her celebration of life this weekend, and it was deeply moving to see the friendships she built here and the impact that she had on our community. Anne was someone that I felt aligned with when I moved back to Peterborough in reading about her advocacy to protect our cultural and historic buildings downtown, which was something that is important to me. Since joining council, we've had many conversations, and what always stood out to me was her deep love for this city. One of the conversations that Anne and I had that I never got to finish with her was about how debate works here around this table, and specifically how frequently and quickly calling the question has been used by this term of council. Because our procedural guidelines are so loosely defined in this area, a motion to call the question can be used in ways that don't align with Robert's rules or with how other municipalities structure it. When I learned of Anne's passing last Monday from Councillor LaChica, I was shocked and saddened, just like a lot of us were. And I found myself reflecting on our friendship and the importance of Anne's legacy and the importance of carrying forward her voice. So I had this motion drafted. I've had it drafted for a very long time. And I was waiting for the right moment to bring it forward. And on that day, I felt moved to honor her memory and our relationship in this way. And I submitted this motion to the clerks. What's in front of us is not about restructuring debate. It's about protecting it. It simply adds clearer structure to how calling the question can be used so that every member of council retains a genuine opportunity to speak to the issues our community trusts us to consider carefully. It includes a 2/3 requirement, which is consistent with Robert's rules and common across other municipalities. That threshold is important because closing a debate should only happen when there is broad agreement that the conversation has truly run its course. Ultimately, this is about ensuring that calling the question cannot be used as a political tactic or a way of silencing opposing views. We are here to have public conversations, sometimes very hard conversations. I believe that a genuine tolerance and understanding of others' viewpoints and a respect for their opinions are attitudes which makes us good leaders. I believe we owe it to the residents who write to us, who come to the meetings, who expect us to debate in the open. I believe this motion will strengthen our process. It will align us with best practice and support a healthier and more respectful decision-making environment, one where every voice at this table has a chance to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burke. Moved by Councillor Burke. Any further comments or questions? We'll take the vote. And that is lost. All right, other business? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Parnell and Crowley. And that is carried. 10:56, not bad. So thanks, colleagues, for a very productive, efficient meeting where we moved along pretty well. So we'll see you next Monday and then a break.